Fischer.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Happy Tuesday night. We're a little tardy, but then again, I'm a trumpet player. I'm lucky I could put my shoes on. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Hang. Tonight is like every other Tuesday. We're so excited to be here and for everybody to be hanging with us. This is episode 65. That's why I have these gray hairs, man. 65. My God. Things are good. Things are good. We appreciate everybody logging on. We have a wonderful trumpet player and friend joining us shortly from the beautiful area of Las Vegas, Nevada. Mr. Danny Falcone is going to come join us. We were talking to him earlier, and he's going to be here in a second saying hello. But in the interim, I have the pleasure of introducing you to my favorite humanoid trumpet player and co-host, Stephen Wright from LaGrange, Illinois. Stephen, what's going on, dude?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going? How you doing, huh?
Hey, look, I got all 10 digits this week.
Yeah, you didn't break no fingers this time.
No, I can actually be whole again.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The cast is off. All right, I'll come over there and break your other fingers now.
Well, I still have the front brakes to change, so.
Okay, yeah, you know. Yeah, Stephen decided he was going to change his brakes a couple months ago, and what sledgehammer? What, a mallet to the fingers on a brake change there?
Yeah, yeah. I had a rubber mallet in between the mallet and the caliper.
Good job.
Hey,
Good job, buddy.
I never claimed to know what I'm doing. Oh man.
Everything going okay though, other than healing is working for you, so that's good.
Yeah. But everything's going good so far. We haven't had snow in 12 hours, so we're good.
All right, God bless.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Hey, on my end here, everything's blurry. I mean, I guess I might need to see a new eye doctor. But is everything with our fish heads and our feet, everything working out? Everybody hanging out with us yet? So far?
Everything's looking good on this end. So it looks like there's maybe a little bit slow on the internet side on your side, but it's looking good. But yeah, we got a bunch of people hanging out already, saying hello. Yeah, and a little bit of everybody. Even got friends of your dad on here.
Awesome, I love it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Who's that? Friends of my dad. Well, my dad had a lot of friends. God bless.
Robert Mance.
Oh yeah, Robert Mance.
Yeah.
All right, cool, beautiful. I love it. Well, cool.
Mm-hmm.
If you're new to the hang, welcome. I am going to talk a little bit about the hang before we bring Danny out, just because Steven is crazy, man. I was going through some records today, some just looking at YouTube and seeing when we started this. It was April 14th of 2020. It was our first episode. So here we are at the 18th of 2022. 65 episodes. Wonderful, man. 2 years. It's been a fun run, man. We've had a lot of great
crazy.
people
It's been
on
2
here.
weeks or 2 years.
Yeah, right. It's been 2 years. Before we go any further, though, I would like to pay homage and put a shout out to one of the best brass engineers, technicians, mouthpiece makers, and just wonderful steward of brass technology and particularly brass mouthpieces. We lost him 2 days ago on Easter. The wonderful Bob Reeves, who was, I believe he was 92. He passed on. There's Bob. So we dedicate tonight to the late, great Bob Reeves. He was just a gentleman and wonderful mouthpiece maker. I remember going to him when I was in Maynard Ferguson's band in the 90s, early 90s, going out to California. Me and Frank Green went there to see him. I gave him Maynard's Constellation. I'm getting a little technical here. Maynard Ferguson, who was a wonderful jazz trumpet player, I was very fortunate enough to get one of his trumpets, and it was banged up in his closet. So I went to Bob Reeves, and Bob Reeves did an alignment on Maynard's horn back then, and was so welcoming and had so many great stories about Maynard. And he's going to be missed. So I did get to hang out with him about 2-3 years ago with Terry Warburton. Terry had a nice little hang, another great mouthpiece manufacturer. Oh, there's the hang. It's Terry Warburton's party called Warburpalooza. There's Fred Powell, Bob Reeves, Mike, the great trumpet player Mike Fax in a blue shirt, whole bunch of great characters. Terry's brother I'm sitting next to from Canada, that was just a really special time. So this one goes out to Mr. Reeves. Oh, there it is. And that's a really cool shot. Terry Warburton is on the right side, who makes my trumpets. He also is probably the longest now living mouthpiece maker since Bob passed away. Bob's in the middle. And the wonderful, on the left side of the screen, is the wonderful trumpet designer and maker of Powell instruments, Powell trumpets, Fred Powell, who was responsible. I was with Fred when we did the Con Vintage 1 project. There's a lot of brass in that shot there. So anyway, I'm going on and on about the trumpet hang, it's going to be a trumpet hang tonight because we have a wonderful trumpet player going to join us, and me and Danny geek out with equipment and stuff. So he'll be here shortly. But Steven, it's been 2 years, 65 episodes. I want to personally thank you for being here and making it click and being my sidekick, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's been we've had a lot of fun with it, and I know we've had our gremlin struggles, but
it happens.
What are you gonna do? Can't make Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram all happy at the same time.
Yep. I mean, you were successful for a while, but man, there's not one server that can do cross-platform all those social media sites. So,
Yeah.
you know, we are going to switch gears. The reason why I'm getting melancholy is we're switching gears. We're formatting the show differently. We're not getting rid of the show. We're going to keep the show, but we're just kind of now, after 2 years, Stephen, you can talk about this. We're kind of fine-tuning the engine, so to speak. So we're going to do it. We're working on making it more of a variety also. We've gotten a lot of people asking me to play more, so I'm going to start playing more, showing a lot more videos of playing, whether it be live or recorded. So the hang's still going to exist, but we're trying to put in so many things that we've learned in the last 2 years, some tip things, some touring things. Obviously, we're going to have guests also, and the hang is still hanging. We're just going to change gears a little bit and fine tune it. Would that be a good way to say it?
Yeah, and I think, one thing that Carl and I have at least tried to do over the years is we're not really ones that are okay releasing stuff just to release it. And what's kind of happened is there's been a little bit of a struggle, at least on my end, to kind of quell the demons, so to speak, between all those different providers. So we want people to be able to watch on what channels and what devices they want to watch on, but it creates a lot of difficulties to get it out to everybody in the format that we want to get it out in. So one of the things that we want to do is go to more of a produced format, to where we'll still have episodes that get released on whatever frequency we decide on, and there'll still be like a live chat piece to it, but there'll be more produced episodes than what we're doing right now. So we'll be more in control of it, less at the mercy of YouTube, so to speak.
Boy, even when you say produced, the gremlins show up already.
That's because YouTube's mad.
Yeah. Well, speaking of YouTube, it's a wonderful platform. There's a playlist on the site. If you're not familiar with it, there's 65 episodes. Not all of them are clearly marked with who's the guest, but I can tell you the guests that we've had from Billy Joel's production staff, everybody in their production and team, to all our band members, Crystal Telefera, Mark Rivera, Tommy Burns, the whole production staff, and some wonderful trumpet players, Rashawn Ross, Wayne Bergeron. I mean, it's Frank Green, Raul Graz. The list is long, so there's a great backlog. Please check that out. And also, there's some other off the beat things. Is Jax, who's one of my good friends, who's on. She's a TikTok sensation. She's got like 2 million followers, and she just won a Grammy. So Justin Fabus, wonderful singer. So check those things out, because we're really going to try to move this forward. But enough about us. Like I said, I'm really proud of what we tried to do. This started, just so everybody knows, this just started just the way we're talking right now. It was a hang in the pandemic, just to kind of hang out with my friends. And I appreciate the fish heads hanging out with us, and the people who come every week. And your job now is to start posting questions and statements regarding moving forward here with our friend Danny Falcone. Did I leave anything out, Stephen?
No, I'd say the only other things that I would add is just while we kind of figure things out over the next handful of weeks, what we're going to do is we broke everything down. The first 65 episodes we broke down into 5 seasons. So what we're actually going to do is take pieces of those and come up with like a best of season 1, best of season 2, and I'll be releasing clips of those over the next few weeks while we come up with what the future is going to look like. And I got a message. I hadn't even gotten a chance to pass it on to you yet, but I got a message from a teacher that was commenting on the fact that he showed all of the episodes for the Billy Joel production staff to his students.
Awesome.
Because he was able to show, like, hey, you don't always just have to be a trumpet player or a trombone player. You can be a tour manager, the ticket guy. You can be, you know, Billy's right hand. You can, you know, there's all these different roles. Yeah. So it was kind of cool to hear that, you know, this guy was using it, you know, for his music students. So I wanted to pass that on.
I love it. That's great. Well, it's, you know, we're not just all musicians. It's a community thing. So I love it. That's great news. Cool. All right. Well, speaking of great news, I'm going to just rap about our friend here for a second, without sounding too fanboyish, because this guy, I've known his name and his father's name since I was very young, you know, and his father and it was a major force in the musical scene out west, and the torch is always been passed and has been passed to Danny now. His late great father Vincent Falcone was a pianist and composer and an arranger and conductor for the likes of who's who on the West Coast, but particularly Mr. Frank Sinatra from 1976 to 82, and then I believe from 85 to 86. His accomplishments were many, and I think his best accomplishment is he raised not just a wonderful musician, but a wonderful man, because Danny is just, he's a good dude. We all know, if you don't know, we all know in the industry, I call him a monster. This guy is just a monster and beast on a B-flat trumpet. He could play anything at any time, anywhere, which is pretty amazing. He started playing professionally in Vegas when he was 15. He grew up in Las Vegas, and he's played with the who's who of you know, artists, and the gamut is crazy. Currently, I mean, he was just on the Grammys with Lady Gaga. He's been with Lady Gaga and doing the show out there in Vegas. He's the lead trumpet player on that. He has toured, and there's a great shot of him and the band and Gaga. That's wonderful. Celine Dion, he's done Celine Dion's show in Vegas for years. The Jersey Boys, he started touring as Celine. He started touring with Tom Jones back years ago, and Paul Anka. He's done a whole bunch with a lot of different artists. I can just name a couple. The diversity is crazy. He's worked with Tony Braxton, Bette Midler. You know, obviously I mentioned Celine. He was with Celine. I think he's still with Celine now, but his TV credits are second to none. You know, Late Show with on David Letterman, the Late Show, Leno, all the Billboard Music Awards he's been on, Lionel Richie and Friends he's got TV credits with. He's got credits on the BBC across the pond, BET Awards, Oprah Winfrey, the Today Show. I mean, he's been with a lot of different artists. But what strikes me with him is probably the most humble guy I know. And what we have in common is, well, we have a lot in common. We're both trumpet players, but we also have a con trumpet fetish. We both love con trumpets, and we became friendly with that throughout the years. And also, I will even say, when I was going out west multiple times, I always, again, knew his name. And, you know, one band I'm leaving out is Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns that he's a member of for years. But running through the West Coast, always, if I couldn't make the gig, I knew Danny was just the type of guy. He was an unbelievable sub. So I've had him sub for me with Miss Diana Ross, and the reports came back that this is the guy who needs to be your sub. I've tried to get him out with BS&T when I was out with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I never got to get him on the gig, but after me, he got on the gigs, and he killed that gig. And these pictures here, we're hanging out. There's Danny with BS&T. He's just, whatever venue and music you put him on, he just fits in, and that's a sign of a really, really, you know, more professional trumpet player. So anyway, without further ado, let's say hello to my friend Danny Falcone.
Man, wow, thank you. That's the most unbelievable introduction I've ever heard, man.
Thanks, bro. I get a hamburger on Tuesday and a cheeseburger on Thursday.
Next time you come back, it's Indian food on me, man.
Yeah, you know, you just freaked me out. I did from that angle. Welcome, first of all. From that angle,
Yeah.
over your right shoulder, or from the left, that picture of Maynard. Oh my God.
My friend's mom, my best friend growing up, his mother gave me that as a birthday present. She did that. She did that.
That just freaked me out, bro.
Crazy. Yeah, she
Wow.
did that and gave that to me for my birthday. It's really a
Love it.
cool canning. Yeah, man.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, man. Yeah.
Hanging?
Glad to be here, man.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You got quite the wall going on. You got the Tom Jones, you got the Maynard shots, the old
And
Maynard shots.
my wife found as a gift to me, she put all this stuff together, all my memorabilia,
I love
and
it.
and like, boom, she threw all this stuff. It's all over everywhere. It's unbelievable, man. She's amazing. So I was
That's
really
great.
kind for her. Yeah, and this is the only room where I can actually have some peace and quiet. So that's why I'm in here.
Oh, I know what that means. Yeah. They call me the human tornado in my house. Oh man. So you grew up in Vegas.
Yeah.
We'll just and for the fish heads and the guys that are hanging out, guys and girls that are hanging out with us, please come up with some questions, because this is, again, it's a community thing, and Danny's a wealth of information on and off the horn. So even if you just want to say hello to Danny, just chime in while we're doing that. So you grew up in Vegas, but you did go to University of Southern California for your college, correct?
I did, yeah. I went out there. That was a great time, man. Really, really great time. And got to hang and study with all the guys that I, idolized that, were in LA at the time.
Jerry Hay?
Well, Jerry and Gary, I hung with them a lot. Gary actually was my teacher because Jerry was busy man, and
Sure.
Gary, I bothered them so much that Gary finally agreed to teach me. And I just to get me off his back, I think, from calling him every day. So I studied with him. I studied with Charlie Davis and Bobby Shue and John Thomas, and there was a Boyd Hood and Roy Coper at USC, and a lot of heavy cats out there, man. It was a great time, to be around and check it all out.
So obviously, West Coast guy, your father, Vincent, did he kind of boot you out? Well, actually, I won't even go even before that, because when you're a kid, we know you started playing when you were professional when you were 15. When you're a kid, what gave you that music bug? I just have to ask you, because we both have wonderful fathers.
Yeah, my dad, I mean, it was cool growing up. At the time, when I first got into music, this is crazy, but it's true. So my brother's an incredible drummer, and he's 3 years older. And so he had guys like Kenny Rampton would come over. Kenny was in our neighborhood, or, would come by. Ben Stivers, I don't know if you know Ben.
Ben's a wonderful. Yeah, I used to play my organ band. Ben Stivers, the piano player. Yeah, he's wonderful, man. I know he was from out.
So you can imagine, this is the kind of quality of cats that were in our. My dad had we had a house, and he extended the garage forward and put a music room behind the garage and kind of soundproofed it. So my brother would get all his buddies over, like, these caliber, and we would actually play rock. Like, so at that time I played keyboards and I sang, because I hadn't really hit puberty. So I would sing like Geddy Lee and Van Halen and all that stuff. So that's what I was really into. And my dad, would just shake his head like, like, oh, what are you doing? So, but as time went on and my voice lowered, I couldn't do that anymore. And I was studying piano, but my dad really it was very difficult, as it is with most people. It's tough to study with your parent, And he would come in and correct me all the time, and I just couldn't take it. Yeah. And so I switched. I actually heard my brother brought home a tape of Maynard Ferguson "Hot," and I could kind of make that trumpet sound out of the corner of my mouth, and I was like, man, that's cool. I want to do that. So I switched to trumpet when I was, I don't know, 11 or 12 or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that story, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't think many people know that story, actually.
But it's cool that your dad set your brother and you up with the room behind the house. Yeah. Just go at it. I had a basement. My dad had a soundproofed closet in the basement, and we go down and play. And it was. Yeah. And then my dad was a trumpet player, so like you said, not the criticism, but it was the father and son thing could be really touchy. So like I remember he was very cognizant of not teaching me too much. He gave me, he's like, you're studying with this guy. My first trumpet teacher is still my best friend. Nice. And then after that, my dad and I became, he was a lot it was a lot easier learning from him. But yeah, man, I can imagine when your dad is, oh, I got to go to a gig. Oh yeah, it's Sinatra at the Sands, whatever, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
it's got to be.
Yeah.
Now, were you back in the day? I mean, were you into a lot of the stuff that your dad was doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I used to go every time he was here with Sinatra at Caesars, which was many times a year. I would go. He would always bring me to the rehearsals, and I would sit and listen. And Charlie Turner was playing first trumpet. Actually, gave me my first trumpet, gave me my first lesson.
Wow.
And it was, I didn't understand the gravity of that at the time. I was quite young when I first, but I knew what I was hearing was pretty spectacular, 40-piece orchestra, and it was really quite amazing. And that kind of really did ingrain in my brain. It kind of etched that sound,
Yeah.
And then I started going to more and more of those things as I got older. He played with a lot of different people, and I got to see a lot of great stuff. And then there was a thing called Jazz Monday Night at the Four Queens Hotel.
Yeah, I remember that they used to broadcast that too.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Alan Grant. So my dad was
Alan Grant. Wow.
Yeah. So he was the house piano player. It was kind of his trio, and then Freddie Hubbard or Bobby Shue or Lockjaw Davis or whomever would come in, and they would back him. So I would go every Monday and watch that and get the hang. And like the Condoli brothers, I got to become friends with them because of that. And I was really privileged to have those experiences.
I love cannolis, man. I can't stop eating cannolis. It's an inside joke. No, for the people who are not trumpet players, Condoli, Pete and Conti Condoli, right, were the ultimate trumpet players. They're actually on Johnny Carson's show, correct?
I think so. And yes, they were, right?
Yeah, I know Pete was. And I think they both, I know Pete was old.
Conti was on there at times. Yep.
I remember both of them. But those guys were like the quintessential, West Coast old timers, man, which were great. And they were also crazy Italian brothers, right? So I'm sure you have some Condoli brothers stories, man. I can't imagine, especially following them around.
They were super kind, as were most of the guys that would come through, so it was a really cool learning ground. I would go there, and the education I get just from hanging out and checking it out, was great,
Soaking it in.
And then, of course, the Musicians Union, which I always talk about because it was such a thing during that period where every musician in town, after their shows, they would go to the union and then have kicks bands.
Yep.
And so instead of going partying on the weekends, I would go to the union with my horn and hope somebody wouldn't show up, and they'd say, hey, put the kid up, and I'd sit on fifth trumpet and get my butt handed to me and, learn how to do it. And that was an incredible, that right there, man. That's like probably the most important thing of all time for me, for my music career.
It's just being in front of everything and being in the scene. There you are with Dizzy Gillespie when you were like 2, but and it's the truth. You don't have to grow up in New York like I did to be around a great scene. And we're going to hit that question down the road. I mean, Vegas at that time in the West Coast, that was a breeding ground, man. And a lot of people just, don't understand. Oh, I got to be in New York or I got to be in Miami and Chicago. No, man. Bayou was it still is. I'm sure. I mean, we hung out, and there's some, not as great as it used to be. But
it's not like before. And I only caught the very tail end of it. I mean, really, it was like 60s, 70s. That's when it was really happening. Yes, and then, I caught some of the 80s. Ran into the 90s, but by that at 88 there was a big strike, musician strike. They all went to tape music, all the shows, because they used to carry a house orchestra in every hotel. So there was so much work that even a kid like me at 15 could go work, sometimes do doubles after high school. I'd go do one show and then do a late show, and there was it was cool because there was so much work that there was no animosity. You know what I mean? Everybody was cool, and we got more work than we can take. So bring the kid on, and so I learned that way.
That's great, man. So now you're, like you said, you're 15, you're going to school, high school, and you're playing these shows. What, you move out west, further west to go to USC, hanging out with all these bad meaning great players. You come back to Vegas, and now this is what you want to do. You graduated. Tell me when you came back when you came back home. Was there a certain thing that was like, I'm going to settle down and do this? Was it touring? Was it Tom Jones at that point?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Okay, so here's kind of what happened. So I went to USC. I was there for 3 years, and then I fell ill. I had to come back home.
Oh, wow, man.
take care of some medical issues. I finished my degree at UNLV.
Okay.
And at that time, so like 88, the strike happened. That's when I went to college. It was 1988.
Perfect.
The strike, yeah. But when I got back to town in 91 or 2 or whatever it was, when I came back, it was dead. Like there were no showroom gigs. There was nothing. So I ended up in the lounges. We started having to play in the lounges to make a living.
Yeah.
And, it was somewhat disheartening, man, after playing in showrooms and stuff. Now all of a sudden you're playing, I mean, it was cool. We were playing Earth, Wind and Fire and some cool music, but
yeah,
you're in a lounge and nobody's really paying attention. Everybody's smoking and
blowing smoke at you.
Yeah. Yeah. So how that played out was I was playing in this really great band, which was kind of a sister band of Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. It was Diane Diaz was her name, and the Big Fish. And a lot of the guys that were in that group ended up in Santa Fe, and killer band doing really hard music. And my friend Bo Doyle, a really great drummer here in town, was actually running a spotlight or something at the Hollywood Theater at MGM, and Tom Jones was there. And Bo's a real gregarious kind of cat. I mean, he just makes friends with everybody. And he went up to the MD and said, "Hey, you got to go hear this band. You'd love it." So Brian Monroney, the guitar player, came to see that band. And I'm not a big, I don't know. I didn't really schmooze with him or anything. I just kind of do the gig, and that was it. And he came. And over the course of about a year and a half, he would come every time they were in town. And we eventually,
Tom would.
Yes, no, Brian Monroney.
Brian would, okay, but he was Tom Jones at that time.
MD, yeah.
Because Tom's crazy too. Tom is, I mean, I have to tell you, he's a hang monster.
Yeah. So anyway, Brian, he liked what he heard, I guess. And at one point he said to me, "Hey, would you like to audition?" And I said, "Yeah." Now they had just hired Dan Miller, or they were about to hire Dan Miller. And so he just wanted to hear how I would sound in the section. I went, I did okay. I'm not a good auditioner, and that was that. He just wanted to hear how I would get along. So I don't know, another year, 8 months or something went by, and I've told this story a million times. I hate to do it, but it's such a great thing. It's true. So I had gotten so frustrated with the lounge scene that I put my horn away. I was quit. I just said, "I'm done."
Wow.
11 days that horn sat in the case. Now, you know what that is for a trumpet player, right?
I do.
So like 2 days and I can barely play anymore. You know what I mean? 3 days, forget it.
That's
so
awesome.
they so on the 11th night at about 11 o'clock, he called me and he said, "Hey man, Dan Miller just threw his back out.
Oh.
Could you come in tomorrow and sub the show?"
Wow.
So dude, I was like 11 days not playing. And I remember telling I talked to my dad about this, man. My dad was real wise about stuff, and I called him. I said, "Dad, what am I going to do, man? I can't." He said, "Well, if you say no, you're never going to get another chance."
Go.
I was like, "Well, I got to do it, man." So I say this, and this is true. I went and got the book. I stayed up from 11 till 5 in the morning. I would practice, pray, practice, pray, practice, pray.
Yep.
Went in and did the show. And I swear I had a perfect show. I almost never in my life have perfect shows. I had a perfect show. It was just one of those unbelievable things. And Tom turned around and looked at me. I'll never forget. He turned back after the show. He looked up, he goes, "Yeah, lad." And that was it. And for me, that was like, okay, if I never do it again, but as it turned out, Dan didn't come back and they asked me to tour. And that was really kind of the start of my touring, thing. So
I love it.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Man, so right there, I mean, we just covered a whole bunch of, your upbringing and jumping around to, school and touring and hearing your dad when you're young. That was a pivotal time, I'm sure. That being said, how's everybody doing? We have some hangers. What's going on over there, Steven?
Yeah, we got a good hang going on in the chat so far.
Yeah.
Got a lot of people, a lot of hang regulars, of course. We always mention our hang president Noah is here for the 65th episode in a row.
Yeah.
So, couple other people joining us. Jerry Lopez, great trumpet player, joining us. We've got, of course, Greg and Brenda in Missouri. Thanks for being here as always.
Thank you.
Suzanne, I mentioned Robert Mance, friend of your dad's, Carl. He said that you bought a ridge line from him.
Oh, Bob. I know you as Bob. Okay, that makes sense. Bob, Big Bob. Yeah, man. What's up, Bob? That was a nice car, man. How you hope all's well. I like that guy. And his friend, what was his buddy's name? Yeah, that was a long time ago. My old man used to love hanging out with those guys in the car lot. Good times. Thanks for coming out. Cool.
So I heard Jerry Lopez. If that's our Jerry Lopez, he's a guitar player and singer. He's the leader of Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. Probably one of the most talented people on the planet. And if he's here, that's killer, man. He's an amazing guy.
And if it is that guy, I got to tell you, man. Danny didn't hear this, but you probably got one of the best horn sections in trumpet player. And Jerry, you notice you got one of the best horn sections, I think, in the planet, man. I was telling you this, Danny, the other day. I started going through a lot of the older stuff of Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. Yeah. A lot of stuff I haven't heard in years, man. And let's just hit on that. If that's your boy, and Jerry, if that's you, thank you, and say hello again. But tell them if you come to Vegas. I remember coming through with Maynard Ferguson playing at the Riviera, and I remember coming really quick to seeing you guys. Just give them. The band's been around since '78. Was that right?
Yeah. Well, Jerry and his family started it early in the '70s. Yeah.
Oh, early '70s. Okay.
Yeah, and they've been a staple in Vegas for decades and decades. I mean, they are just, that band is the pinnacle. Yeah,
man.
And then in the early 2000s, Jerry had an idea. He's told this story and he's so much better at it. I don't want to defile it, but he had an idea of if he was out on the road with another, a little group like this, doing some other kind of music. And he said, if we could put together the dream, what would it be? Like, what would make us so happy? What music would we want to do? Who would we want in the band? And don't have any limitations, and they came up with this idea of it's a 14-piece thing, mostly originals, but then some covers and then some reworked covers. And he did it, man. And he put together this, and I remember going to hear them. The first time I heard those guys, it was like lights out. I walked in and heard like the first 4 or 5 notes of that band, and it was just like, that's it. That's what I want. That's my goal. That's what I want, And they're the baddest cats, man. I mean, everybody in that band is just
no slouches.
Oh my God, man! You got to bring your A plus game.
It's once a week. It's once
every Monday night. We've been doing it. I joined the band in 2004.
There it is.
We've been doing it every Monday since, man.
Yeah. So you got to keep, even if you're not playing, you got to keep your chops up for that, obviously, because it's a hard book, man. Not many people can play that book.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It. Well, if you ever go to Vegas, and tell us, I know you changed venues. Tell me about the venue you guys are playing at now.
Yeah, so Jerry found this place. Okay, so the Bootlegger restaurant it's kind of a staple in Las Vegas, Italian restaurant. It's on Las Vegas Boulevard, it's on the south end of the strip. And they own the entire complex there. It's like an L-shaped, thing. So the restaurant's here and they have other
a bootleg.
So it was like, if I remember right, like it was owned by like a Russian mobster or something, this little room, and they had like a strip club. I probably shouldn't talk about it. But so Jerry found this place because we were at the Palms for years and years and years. And then they decided to turn the lounge into like a bingo room or something, got rid of music. So we were jumping around different places, and we wanted to get a home, and we wanted something that was acoustically for what we were doing. We wanted something where people came to hear music, and it was a real music venue. So he found this, and he had an idea, and he said, look, let's take over this room. Well, they gutted it. They designed it to be acoustically pleasing. They put all the speakers where they needed to be. I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing what he and the guys did. And man, it's a fantastic thing. So it's called the Copa Room. It's right behind the Bootlegger restaurant. Holds about 250 people, and it's just fantastic, man. It's a great place to check it out.
Yeah, if you come through town, you got to see Danny and the boys and the girls.
Monday at 7:30, every Monday.
Every Monday, go see him.
God willing.
So I'm sure there's other people hanging. Who else we got, Steven?
Let's see. Next one on the list is Bob Cook. Bob says saw Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns years ago in Vegas. Great show. Any plans for any new CD releases from the band or any releases from any of the band members?
Yeah, we are actually going into the studio. We've actually already started for the new record, if it's called a record anymore, you know. But I think during the pandemic, everybody got working, and I think we've written as a group 20 some songs, man. And
wow.
So, yeah, so we have started, and hopefully in the next month or two, we'll have really dug in and start putting this thing together and get it out. It's really great. I mean, these tunes are fantastic. They really are, man. The guys in this band are so talented.
Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
See, we got Vinny. I won't even try to pronounce his last name.
It starts with a C?
Yes.
The end with a vowel?
Wait. CINQ?
No, CIES. Cecilski.
Okay, so it's not synchromatic.
Sorry, Vinny.
Hey, Vinny, I have a synchromatic. I thought you were my buddy Synchromatic, who was my first trumpet teacher. But okay, it's another.
I think it's Vinny Chaleski, right? Is that who this is?
Is it Chaleski?
It ends in a ski and starts with a Chi.
Oh yeah, so. It's got to be the monster. Yeah, he's your boy. He's awesome, man. Wow.
Yeah, great.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hanging. Well, we have royalty in the house. We have a lot.
There we go.
It's a trumpet hang. Look at this. Thanks for coming, Vin.
Yeah, sorry for butchering your name, Vinny.
That's all right. You got 9 fingers. You can have 8.
I got all 10 fingers, but no working thumb.
You're gonna lose your fingers. I'm gonna slit your throat.
Hey, how you doing? Let's see. We got Bruce Levine.
Cool.
Love Tom. Saw him at Westbury in the round, roughly 1971. Must have been 13 years old at the time.
Wow.
A lot.
Westbury Music Fair. I don't know if you played it, Danny. It's in Long Island. It's in Westbury. It's that spinning stage, man.
Yeah, many times.
And it makes you sick, right? I mean, I've only done it to the point where, actually, there's a funny video when I was with Diana Ross of the horn section. We had a great, we did a funny video there. But man, if you don't fixate on a position, it used to make me sick. I'm so glad I don't have to play there right now.
Yeah, we did that a lot. We played that a lot. And
with Paul Anka too, I'm sure you played there.
Yep, we sure did.
Yep. Yeah. How was Paul Anka's gig? Going from Tom to Paul Anka, and it was a hard book too. I mean, that was at the time when he was doing the standards, right?
That's like a Maynard book. I mean, it was
a hard book.
Brutal. Yeah. It was fun though, man. I like Paul. You know, Paul and I got along really well. I really liked him a great deal. You know, I mean, everybody knows all the stories and all of that, but no,
you know, what are you talking about? Paul Anka stories.
But if you were cool with Paul, he was cool with you. You know, he was very generous to me and very kind. And you know, we only had one run in, and I'll tell you that story another time. It was me, Frank Green and Gizzy, you know. So
oh, it was that the section? It was you, Gizzy, and Frankie?
Well, I did it many years, so it changed a lot. But yeah, we would bring Frank on when we were on the West Coast.
Sure.
So it was me, Gizzy, and Roger, and then it was me and Gizzy and Scott Engelbright but then it was Tom DeLibero and I.
Oh man, Tom.
So we did it together for a long time, and then I left. I think Tom left first. And then it was me, and we would pick up. I was the only one they'd carry, and they would pick up other people.
Oh wow!
But Frank always did it. You know, whenever we were on the West Coast or East Coast.
East Coast, yeah. Frank's a monster, and I remember. You know, I was actually with Maynard at that point, and I remember Scott left Maynard, and he was starting to sub on Anka, and the book, the music that Paul was playing was very horn heavy at that point.
Yeah, man.
I remember Roger doing it, but you brought up a name I haven't heard. I always think about. How's my friend Mr. Tom DeLibero, man? What a monster trumpet player he is, huh?
Oh yeah, man.
My God, I remember we come through Vegas and he'd hang, and man, was he with Santa Fe at the time too?
I think Tom did play with Santa Fe for a while. Yes, he did before I did.
A long time ago, yeah. I remember that. That's when I first heard the band with Tom.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he's one of my heroes. You know, I mean, I grew up in town. You know, he was a little older than I, so I would always like sneak in and watch him play. You know, he's Tommy Perello and Tom DeLibero and Tommy, all the Toms, Tom Snelson, all these Toms in town that were so killer. You know, and yeah, DeLibro's, you know, legendary, man. He's
And Perillo too. Wow.
oh, Perillo's the greatest.
Falcone. It must be an Italian thing.
It is, man.
You know,
all the Pisons up there.
Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So Vinny's hanging. Who else we got in the scene? Steven? Anybody else that we could talk about and we can abuse?
Oh yeah, we can always abuse people. Bruce threw in that he met you roughly 15 years ago outside of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. You were playing at the. No, he met you, Carl. Sorry.
Oh.
You were playing at the Jazz Cafe. Signed a CD for his 12-year-old son.
Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, with Maynard Ferguson.
Yep.
It must have been because there was a club in Wilkes-Barre, and Wilkes-Barre, Marco Mercinko was the drummer. And if that's the case, because Marco was from Scranton and his hometown came to that show, if I remember right. And I do remember hanging out with a younger kid. So, okay, I love it. Wilkes-Barre.
Got a good memory, brother.
Only for certain things, for good things. For bad things, I don't remember.
Let's see. We got a few other people hanging with us. We got a fellow CF horn player, Nathaniel, is hanging out with us.
Hey, Danny, have you heard this kid Nathaniel play?
I don't
Nathaniel
know.
Wilford, right, Stephen? Wilford?
Yeah,
Wilford,
I think
yeah.
I have him.
He studied with Dan. He's studying with Dan Miller.
Yeah,
the kid, I call him a kid. He's a monster, man.
Yeah. Yes, I think
He's
I heard
playing
one.
like double C's and D's, and he's starting to improvise really, really well. He's got a monster sound. We're watching you, Nathan,
I think I
man.
saw a video of him out in front of his band, and he was playing
Yep.
some stuff, man. He sounded really good.
Yeah.
Right on. Dan Miller, man, you know, you can't really go get much better, you know. He can do it all, you know, another monster.
We're going to have to punch Nathaniel.
He said he's glad to be here. Definitely couldn't miss this one. Let's see, you got Anthony Klein.
Good work, man, Nathan, keep good work up, man.
Yeah, definitely.
We're proud of you.
Anthony Klein joining us. Warren Oray joining us. Great show, gents. Glad I could hang tonight. Harry joining us from in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean between Florida and the Azores.
Wow.
So there we go. Teddy and Melissa from Songs in the Attic radio
What's up,
show,
guys?
hanging out with us. Luis Juarez, Carl and Dan, two of my role models and inspirations. Wow.
You got to get your standards set
Right.
higher.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, just, you know, we're here to laugh. Thank you.
Yep. If you're not getting abused, you weren't noticed, you know. No, but thank you guys for hanging out in the chat with us. You know, keep the questions coming in. I do have them on a separate screen. Even if the guys can't read them directly, I'll filter them into the conversation as we get a chance. So put any questions, comments, concerns that you have. I mean, we've gone almost an hour, and you do have your pants on still, Carl. So.
Oh, no, it's early. I have my Easter shirt. My Easter bonnet's coming next. It looks like my tablecloth on Easter.
How come Carl told me I couldn't wear pants? What was that?
You're naked from the waist down.
Yeah,
right?
just don't stand up. No, but keep the questions coming, guys. We got a whole hang here going on in the chat. So I do have one other question that was in the chat, and then I'll let you go, Carl. Jerry's asking for Danny, who is your favorite trumpet player from a sound perspective?
Oh, wow.
God, how do you answer that? You know, Jerry Lopez asked that.
Yep.
Oh man, I'm coming for you next Monday, dude.
Is that Jerry Lopez from Florida or Jerry Lopez from Vegas?
You'll have to tell us. It says Jerry Lopez music, so it could be.
That's here. I'm pretty sure that's our Jerry. From a sound perspective, man, you know, I like so many different things. That's why it's hard for me to ever give one. You know, I mean, you know, growing up for me, it was Gazzo, Perello, you know, Dave Stahl. I loved his sound. You know, then it became Jerry Hay. You know, for me, that was the quintessential thing that I wanted to sound like was Jerry. You know, that intensity, that fire. You know, but I mean, there's so many guys, man. I don't want to leave anybody out. There's so many people that I love, you know, as far as commercial first trumpet kind of stuff, you know, as far as jazz trumpet, there's a gazillion guys there too. I mean, I love Carlson. We were in a hotel room checking out horns, man, and he was freaking me out, you know. So
not in a good way.
yeah, he kept taking his pants off. I couldn't freaking me out, man.
Oh well, honestly, thank you, man. That was a fun
yeah,
hang.
there he is, right there. There's the shots in the room right there. Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of cats. I grew up listening to so much, you know, like, you know, Miles was a huge influence. Clifford Brown, Lee Morgan, Blue Mitchell. You know, those are. I mean, there's just so many. You know, it's hard to narrow it down, man. I'm sorry, I hate to be ambiguous, but
well, I'm gonna jump in, and you're gonna hate me for this, Danny, but I don't talk about this much because it has only happened maybe 3 times in my life, and we're gonna, Stephen, pan back into the pictures of the hotel room. So I'm playing Con 36Bs that Danny brought to me to buy because we're both Con freaks. We love Cons. I'm a 38B guy. I want a 36 for my collection. So I'm hammering out. It's a hotel room and we're pissing everybody off at night. And, you know, so I give Danny some horns to play. And I this goes along with the question that was just bared to Danny about sound. Danny did his thing. Danny was Danny. I've heard he sounded amazing. He sounded like himself. I asked him to play something pretty, and I almost got teary-eyed. Well, I did that night. I'm getting teary-eyed now. You played a ballad, and you remember this too. You got done playing it, and if I closed my eyes, it was freaking Maynard Ferguson.
Oh yeah, man, I do. Yeah. Well,
The
Maynard.
vibrato you play with, and the way, and you weren't copying it. It wasn't a cheap imitation. I closed my eyes, and for me, this is very, it's a visceral thing with me. I was with Maynard Ferguson for 12 years. That sound is ingrained in my head. That's the sound. When I hear trumpet, that's what I try to, I don't try to emulate a sound because I don't think anybody can emulate it. People come close. Eric Miyashiro, you've done a thing on Danny Boy. That's crazy great. But when you played this ballad, there was parts of Danny in there and Maynard. And it freaked me out so much, dude.
Thank you. That's really kind, man. And you know, Maynard, I'm remiss to not mention Maynard. Maynard, without a doubt, my biggest influence. You know, not that I wanted to play like Maynard. I never tried to copy Maynard. Or
that's what I love. That's what I love about it.
Right? Yeah. There's no way I could ever do that. I'm not even close to Maynard. I don't hold a shadow. But what I loved about Maynard, and I still love about Maynard, was the intensity and his energy.
Yeah.
And that was for me. I'm like a 12-year-old kid when I pick up the trumpet, when I'm playing like with Santa Fe or even with Gaga. I'm in my head, I'm hearing Maynard. Not that I want to sound like Maynard, but I want to generate, I want to try to generate that excitement. Because when he was the only guy, I mean, telling you, man, I went to that concert, I was probably 12 years old, 12. And I walked in and heard him play, man, and that destroyed me. I mean, it was like, what is this? You know, it was like being electrocuted, you know?
The excitement that came out of his bell.
Dude, there wasn't a rock band on earth that had that kind of excitement. And I don't care what anybody says. You know, I've seen everything. I mean, I was always going to concerts and everything. There was nothing like going to a Maynard concert. And so for me, I think you're right. Maybe that's what I need to say. It's like, I don't try to be Maynard. I would never try that. I would never emulate it. But I want to, I channel all that I've heard and what he did for me, you know, that he just inspired me so much. So yeah, that's a great thing. I'm glad you brought that up. And I am really remiss in not mentioning Maynard.
Don't be remiss, because that's what I love about you. You're very unassuming and you're not trying to be Maynard. And that's what was honest about it. What Maynard told me, and this is my T.Ë.T.I project, Tribute to Evolutionary Trumpet Icons. What Maynard told me and we talked about this having Indian food, was play it like yourself, but play with intention. And the intention was, like you said, the electricity of that sound. Guys came close. Dave Stoll is amazing. Lynn Nicholson, they all have their own things. But man, it was a humble thing that you played. That it was still Danny, but it had that Maynard electricity, which guys can't. You can't bottle it. You can't. And I also attribute to a lot of things, and we're going to get geeky now for the trumpet heads. And we talked about this, is the sound projection and the sound that you get off the bell of the old Constellations.
Yeah.
You know, just having the equipment to kind of help you, you know, negotiate that sound that you've heard 20 years back.
Sure.
And I'd be remiss to say too, like guys like Nathaniel, I don't know, I hope he did, but a lot of younger players, check this out, Danny, a lot of younger players never got to hear Maynard.
I know, man. It's hard to believe. Because like our generation, there wasn't a more popular trumpet. No young school kid playing trumpet didn't get exposed to Maynard. I mean, that was like, you know, some didn't check out Miles, some didn't check out Clifford, but everybody checked out Maynard in our generation. Everybody, you know.
Same thing with saxophone, trumpet players, and I got rhythm section players are like, man, when I first went to a Maynard concert, it was the excitement. Like you said, it was bottled up of a rock band. It was like, and it came out of his bell. It was crazy. Steven says this all the time. Steven, remember the story you always told when you first heard Maynard, you know, in a small setting, what it was like. You know, he's playing right in front of you. I mean, that you can't make that shit up.
Nope.
No, it's just it's when you can feel the sound. I mean, it's just a whole different thing. And I think the you didn't really, I mean, you felt it and you saw it, but then when he'd do certain things where he would step away from that mic in the front and just play acoustically in the theater or whatever venue it was, and you still felt how powerful the sound was and how broad the sound was, just how wide it was, but it could still pierce all the way to the back of the room and just eat you alive. And but at the same time could be lyrical
and had substance. It wasn't all high end, it wasn't all mid end, and it just the full spectrum of sound, which a lot of players, you know, lately have, you know, here I go. Here comes the Brooklyn Carl. A lot of players lately have that laserish thing where it's all painful. Right. And that's the thing that I love about guys like Danny and Dan Miller and Roger and guys that, you know, study sound. It's got to have, and Frank Green, have the whole encompassing thing, you know, also have the right tool for the job. If you're playing with Billy Joel, if you're playing with Lady Gaga, you don't want to have a dark sound, obviously. You have to have the right tools and sound for the trade, but I'm going off here on a tangent. But so.
Let me just tell you this kind of funny story. You'll probably know, I'm trying to think, and the name is now escaping me, of course. The drummer who played with David Lee Roth, who was with Maynard.
Oh, Greg Bissonette.
That's a tremendous story. So David Lee Roth, man, like Van Halen, to me, greatest rock band of all time. I mean, just that's my jam. He goes and sees Maynard, right? Yeah. David Lee Roth checks out Maynard and hires Greg Bissonette because of the energy that was coming off that stage. See what I'm saying? It's like even guys like David Lee Roth, who's the pinnacle of a rock singer, got moved by not only Maynard, but what was going on in the band. You know, it's pretty incredible stuff. Yeah.
It's incredible, and you know, you being a rockhead, it's kind of funny because there's a video out, and Stephen will find it. This David Lee Roth is talking about hiring. It's a bootleg video talking about hiring Greg from Maynard Ferguson. He went to see Maynard and blah blah blah, and you know, so yours was David Lee Roth. Mine, believe it or not, was AC/DC. It was Brian Johnson. I hear Brian. And he's actually a friend of mine. He lives in Sarasota, and you know, people like, oh, you like AC/DC? I love AC/DC, you know. But it's got that vibe. It's like it's got the energy, you know.
Yeah. I'm still. I mean, it's funny. To this day, I spend a lot of time listening to, you know, classic rock, man, because that stuff there's so much musicality in it. Yeah. But it's so driving, like, you know, that energy that's what turned me on to Maynard and everything else. It's that for me, that's the whole point. Like, you know, I wish I was a better jazz player. I'm not. I love jazz. I love great jazz trumpet players. I appreciate them. I'm not. So I don't at this point.
You could get around the horn though, bro. You do.
I'm not, believe me. But I'm still turned on by all of that, man. I listen all the time to all kinds of stuff. I don't just listen to trumpet, you know, like I'm listening to all kinds of
all
stuff.
over the place.
Yeah,
that's why you're a well-rounded player, and that's one thing we'll say to the younger generation. Don't just be a trumpet head, or if I play saxophone, I'm a John Coltrane guy, or
right.
or a smooth jazz. The smooth jazz guys kill me. It's like they dance around the stage and play blues chains. Check out everything and everybody. I mean, that's how you're going to make a living. Be able to morph into that. So my question to you, I mean, we're going on this trumpet heavy thing, which is great. But I want to go back, not back, but I want to say, so now you're dealing with, you come back into Vegas,
yeah,
the scene shuts down, the strike is there. You're out with Paul, you go out with Tom Jones, and then you go out with Paul Anka. So now you're a touring musician. You're in, you're a touring guy. When you come back to Vegas, how did you differentiate? It's a hard word for a trumpet player to say. Differentiate between touring life and staying busy in town.
Yeah,
because I know in New York it was hard for me, man. So how did you get that happening?
So this is where I met Jerry Lopez. So this is how and let me tell you, not because he's here, but this is the truth, man. Jerry for me is probably the most important. It's a little emotional, like.
Sure.
Jerry, if it wasn't for Jerry, I wouldn't have the career I have. I mean that, man. He is a force to reckon with, and he makes things happen that nobody else can make happen, and he provides an opportunity for people, to do what they do. So like, for example, every gig I've gotten probably since I joined Santa Fe came from Santa Fe, like people coming to see the band. It's such an incredible opportunity to showcase each person in the band and what they love to do the most, right? You know what I mean? Nice. And so I've been very, very fortunate, man. I mean, like super fortunate to be a part of that. So here's how this all happened. So I'm out with Tom Jones. My grandfather is dying, and I'm super, super close to my grandfather.
Yep.
And my mom has already passed away. So there's really, and it doesn't matter, but I'm taking care of him the majority of the time.
You're going home to take care of your family.
Well, I'm home. I am home. We're off the road for a little while.
Yep.
And now they're going to go to Europe. They're going to London. And I said, look, I can't do it, man. I got to stay home. And, I just have to take care of my grandfather. It's just more important to me than a gig, and they were very understanding and all that. But anyhow, while they went away and I stayed home, I got a phone call from Jerry saying, hey, we're doing this show. Ricky Martin's people are putting together this huge production show at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, which was a pretty new hotel at the time. And it's going to be in the showroom. It's massive, multi-million-dollar production, whatever. And they've hired me to do the band, and I'd like you to come on and play trumpet with it.
Nice.
And I was like, man, I just can't. I'm out with Tom Jones. I can't do that, But he was insistent, and he kept calling and kept offering more money and found more budget. And in the end, I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I wanted to stay. I mean, I kind of was done. I kind of was in a weird place with that tour. Mm-hmm. And my chops had gotten all jacked up. And anyway, just kind of coming out of that. And I had met my now wife.
Oh, beautiful.
I really wanted to be around more. I was on the road with Tom a lot. It was like, I don't know, 40 weeks a year or something, And so I took the opportunity with Jerry, and so I did this show. And in that band basically was Santa Fe before it became Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. It was kind of the crux of the band, and then the 3 horn players that he hired. And like we had Larry Williams, with Jerry Hayes, Larry Williams, he came in and did arranging. And I mean, it was like ridiculous, man. The band was stupid, and that was my beginning of my relationship with Jerry. And then it slowly evolved, and I asked them to play my wedding with my wife, and they came and played. And I wasn't in the band at the time. And then not long after, I think DeLibero left, and I took over for DeLibero.
Oh, beautiful.
Or so maybe it was Greg Neer, one of the two of them. I can't remember who left, but yeah.
Wonderful, man. So, I'm a firm believer in 6 degrees of separation. It's all who you know, and it's a very small community, and, treating people the way you want to be treated. And back in the day when there's more gigs, you had more options, obviously. So obviously, your boy Jerry looked out for you, and that was a great thing. Plus, you're from Vegas. I'm sure, you know, everybody back when you were 15 to just before going to University of USC, people knew your name. So you were on the scene, which is very important. I think a lot of people have to realize that too. If you're going to become any type of freelance musician, you have to pay your dues, not just behind a computer, but you have to go out and be on the scene.
Yeah.
Which is harder these days now, man, you know?
I know, man.
I don't go out at all.
No, I know. I don't either. At this
it's
point,
crazy. We're both like, you know, I feel like an old man. I don't go out. When I'm home, I'm home. It's kind of,
bro. I know.
You know? Well, that's a great story. I love that, man. How are we doing with the hang? Is there any interjection of goodness there?
Oh yeah, we got a bunch of comments on the stuff we were talking about earlier. Yeah, right. Let's see. I had a couple people earlier that I accidentally missed.
How dare you?
Got Kevin Kuzui, Kuziw, said definitely glad to be here. Carl, his father Steve, who is a captain down in the Ocean Reef, is a good friend of your buddy Brian on the finish line.
Wow, that's something. I love it.
Says he'll see you in Charlotte this Saturday.
All right, so Steve is friends with Brian at the Ocean Reef fishing tournament, which is a great place where I fish with my best friend since I'm 5. I haven't been there in a while. And he's going to be in Charlotte, which we're going to be with Billy.
Yeah, Steve is Kevin's dad.
Kevin's dad.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Reach out, email me or hit me on the site and we'll hook up. Get in some trouble. Actually, right, Danny, it's crazy now. It's kind of, you know, we can kind of hang out with people now. COVID is it's still there. You got to be cool. You can't be hugging on everybody, but, you know.
Yeah. I think everybody's just about had it at this point, you know.
Yeah. It's crazy. Oh, man. It's crazy. But I'm looking forward. We're going to Charlotte Friday. I'm playing Saturday and coming back Sunday. So that's cool. That's a great story about Ocean Reef. Great.
Yeah. Travis.
Reach out again.
Yeah, Travis Goodwin says, awesome as always. Looking forward to seeing
That's an old Yamaha buddy who's not with Yamaha. Travis Goodwin. And Danny, you were with Yamaha for a while, weren't you, or no?
No, but I actually have 2 Yamahas sitting right here that they just sent me.
Look at you. I love it.
And everything, man. Like, I'm always on
a trumpet whore. I love it.
Yeah.
Travis was with Yamaha for years. So, yeah, Travis, I got your emails, man. I'm going to try to see you and your son. I know you're coming to the show. Let's reach out and link up. But Yamaha's a great company. I think he's now with Maynard. I can't remember, or Drum Company. I can't remember. But chime in because I know you're doing some cool things with the new company you're with. Not that it's new, but it's not Yamaha. I'm not with Yamaha anymore. Yamaha was great for 10 years. It was wonderful. But I moved on to Terry Warburton now. So
very
what
cool.
else you got?
Let's see. Nathaniel commented on what you guys were talking about earlier. He's too young to have seen Maynard live, which he wishes so badly that he could have. The first trumpet sound he ever fell in love with was hearing Maynard's ballads. When he hears recordings like People, Tenderly, Round Midnight, that's when he knew what sound should feel like. Maynard is still one of his biggest influences. So
cool.
Nathaniel gets it.
Good. So Nathaniel, so here's the next exercise, and Dan, you can give him a little etude too, and take it for a grain of salt with both of us. We're just throwing things out. So you're a Maynard guy. You listen to Maynard. Maynard will tell you this: stop listening to me. Listen to someone totally different now. Go check out like Bud Herseth, or go check out something totally opposite. Winton told me this too. He goes, "Oh, you like this guy? All right, go read a book about physics." I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? And it took me a while to figure out. Go opposite because you're already there, and I know you have a great sound, and I know you emulate. Go totally opposite, whether it be a trumpet player, tenor player, piano player, or even you want to get into microbiology. The more things you can have in your arsenal in communication, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a boat broker, all these things will come out in your playing. And it might not be immediate, but it will happen. And that's the sign of maturity. What do you got for him?
I would tell him, I checked out first I was really into Joe Henderson. So I was like trying to get this Joe Henderson sound on trumpet.
Nice.
But then I really started listening to singers, and I wanted to emulate singers, you know, and then I got into Louis Armstrong singing, and it jacked me up, man. Like that, it was impossible. Like there's nothing like Louis Armstrong, you know, his time, his phrasing. So, you know, those kind of things, I think if you go outside of your instrument and listen to things that you go, wow, man, you know, Diane Carroll sounds unbelievable. Or, you know, Sarah Vaughan was huge for me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I used to sit and listen to Sarah Vaughan all the time and just figure out like her vibrato, like what is she doing, you know? And then I went and saw Kathleen Battle. Do you remember her?
I do. The wonderful opera singer. She was that record she did with Wynton Marsalis. Wonderful, right?
She came here. She sang. She was at it's at the university. They have a theater there. No microphone. Okay, this true story. I stood at the back of way back, a couple hundred feet at least.
Yeah.
She's singing, and it feels like Maynard. You know, like the sound is just
the intensity,
pounding,
projecting.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. And I'm watching her, and I could barely even see her breathe. And I'm going, man, I got to learn that. Like what is she doing to be that efficient and project? So, you know, there's all kinds of different things other than just trumpet, you know, that relate to what we do. So I would say, yeah, you're spot on, man, with that.
I love it, man. I love it. So, you touched on something that is very, it's mind blowing. And your boy Kenny Rampton posted this 2 years ago around the same time we started the show. It was the Louis Armstrong Challenge, playing the West End Blues. And it was to a bunch of trumpet players trying to play, you know, excerpts of the West End Blues intro. And and Wynton and I used to talk, when I was at Wynton and I used to talk about this too, because I was not, at that point, Wycliffe Gordon was playing trombone too. At that point, I wasn't really Louis. I liked what Louis did, but I'd never really gotten to depth of musicianship. And it's amazing. It sounds so simple, but it's the most complex stuff. Timing and phrasing, putting the note where he would put the time and phrase was just quintessential American music to this day, you know? And if you don't play it, and if you don't try to emulate it, you're doing yourself a disservice. I really feel so. You know, it took me up. I was 21 when I only really starting to play, trying to cop the solos, and it's amazing, man. It's still to this day. It's a left brain, right brain thing. It's a hard thing to do. So I think not just for trumpet players, but also, like you said, singers. Billy Joel loves Louis, the way Louis phrases things, to the point we laugh about it. He don't even know half the words. We did One in Wonderful World a few times. He didn't know the second verse or even the second A section. It was hysterical, but it was just the delivery of it, and he delivered it like Louis, which is like crazy, man. And it's a really hard thing. And then when you look at the opera thing, the efficiency of Kathleen Battle, Maynard had this thing when he would do clinics was, when you have an energy demand, and I look at Mike Del Giudice. Mike Del Giudice is a singer, guitar player with Billy. He does an Italian aria, Nessa Dorma. And it's the same thing when you have an energy demand. Think like Pavarotti and project. Yeah. And project, you know, and it's the Maynard stance, it's the Pavarotti stance, where it's just everything's open and you're breathing to the point where it doesn't look like a big deal, but there's a lot of stuff going on, man.
I got a great Pavarotti story. So
give it to me.
It does have a little swear word, so I'm going to try to. I'll censor that.
That's all right. You can, you know, it's
so past so my dad used to warm up Frank every night. He would go to his room and they would, you know, sing. He would warm it up. So Pavarotti, they were going to do a
Sinatra, people. If you don't know who Frank is, he's talking about Frank freaking Sinatra.
Sinatra. And you shouldn't call him Frank.
No.
So he was doing. I had a poster of it too. Damn it! He did a concert with Pavarotti. I think it was at Carnegie Hall. Wow. So my dad told me the story that they went up to the room and Pavarotti came in, and he was warming Mr. Sinatra, you know, his voice, and then Pavarotti said, you know, asked him if he would help him, you know, play with him, do him. And I guess he opened up his mouth, and the first note that came out was, you know, just wiped everybody out. Sinatra turned to my dad and quietly said, "What the was that? Like, what am I going to do? Like, it would be like me and like Maynard coming in and playing, and you just go, I can't, what am I going to do? Forget it. Put it down. Yeah.
And time to go.
Yeah, I guess he was just, it was a force of nature.
Totally. And, it's funny because a lot of trumpet players, I know Maynard and even Chris Bodie talks about, the operatic type of thing, man. It's pretty intense when you really think about it, because there's a lot going on without people seeing, if you break it down, you want to break it down like very specifically like Bobby Shoe, the wedge breath, which is a very systematic way of breathing, with 4 steps. But also it's a very, if you break it down even simpler than that, it's a very organic thing too. Right. I noticed that, you're, this will lead to my question to you. I'm a monster. I'm a fat bastard. I'm big. You're a small dude. The Santa comes out of you. A lot of people are like, oh, he's got to be a big fat guy to be able to play bass trombone or play lead trumpet in big band. You defy all the odds. Your sound is so big, and you have a very small frame, and so you're very efficient, and that's very important, I believe, for keeping your chops, keeping the gig, and knowing how to make. I look at another guy, Brian McDonald. The guy's like 90 pounds soaking wet. Maybe he's 110. But but you guys really have it figured out. Can you talk to me about the physical aspect of how you approach that?
Yeah.
When you have an energy demand, playing high or playing long phrases.
Yeah. So that came about, actually. It's funny because this whole, it's funny how all these pieces of your life kind of come together, and then you start to see it in the end.
I love it, man.
So I started out, we were talking about Bob Reeves. God bless Bob Reeves. I mean, so as a kid, I would go to Tom Perello, and I would take a drive down there, and he'd make mouthpieces for me, and I would, at that time, I wanted to play like Gazzo, like Perello. So I was, 26, 25, 24 hole, huge holes.
Humongous throat.
Yeah. And I'm playing as hard as I can, and my cheeks are pumping, and and I could get up to high F maybe, or an F sharp, but I was getting cut and killed, and so, oh yeah, man. So then when I told you about the strike that happened, right? So all of a sudden we're playing in lounges, and I'm playing like a marching band trumpet player, and the pit bosses are coming over. No, don't turn them. No, stop. You're too loud. They've asked me to turn around and play into a curtain before. I'm honest to God. So I had to learn. So immediately I was like, okay, I've got to figure out how to play those notes without killing myself. Mm-hmm. And I started working on becoming efficient, both with my equipment and with my approach.
Okay.
And that's how that kind of road started for me. And as I went down that road over the years, I got more and more knowledgeable about equipment, about how mouthpieces worked, started making my own mouthpieces, or worked with different people to make them, I should say. Mm-hmm. And started to kind of get a grasp of, okay, so I'm working way too hard here, right? Yep. And then my range started to increase, because when I was out with Tom Jones, I could play A flats really well, but and I could play other notes, but not consistently. It was please, Yeah. And so I kind of started figuring out more and more, like, okay, if I can hone in on the efficiency of the equipment, and then I can learn how to be more relaxed in my playing rather than thinking about killing it.
Relax.
Yeah. And the more I relaxed, the more I got equipment that allowed that relaxation to then be exaggerated out the bell, right? Yeah. Yes, then my range started going up. Then all of a sudden I got up to A's, B's, and then double D's, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm starting to figure this out. It took a long time. I was in my 30s before I really figured all that stuff out. I still figure it out, but got a little grasp on it, I should say.
Sure. Yeah. When you figure it out, you're going to be dead, right?
Exactly. Right.
Dizzy quote. It's a dizzy quote.
Right. So yeah, for me, I think what it turned out to be was learning how to let the resonance happen naturally rather than force it to happen. Right. Okay. Yes, and that's the Kathleen Battle thing, man. That was one of the big changes in my life. I went and watched her, and I'm seeing her, and I'm hearing this sound, and she's barely breathing. Like, I'm trying to watch her belly, trying to see, No, nothing. It was like, boom, you know. And so I'm going, well, I know it's possible. There's a way to do it, right?
And your wheels are turning. You're looking analytical at this whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I start working on, you know, for me, I started thinking about, okay, my buddy Rich Little, who was a great trumpet player here in Vegas. His dad's a real famous trumpet player, played in all the shows. He kind of hit me to it. He was like, if you can get the bones in your face to vibrate, like that's what singers do. They think about these, you know, all of the sinus stuff to vibrate and stuff. That helps create a bigger resonance, I guess, you know.
Wow.
And so that was kind of one of the things I thought about. I don't think about that anymore. I think it kind of happens naturally now, but that was something I thought about a lot. And then, of course, you know, just being very relaxed and focusing on distance with the horn rather than spreading my sound and trying to kill the whole thing. I think about going forward, trying to get my sound all the way to the back of the room like she did when she sang.
It's not compression in the mouthpiece. It's not air. It's not tongue placement in the throat. None of that. It's about being relaxed and open.
Yeah, right. I'm so relaxed. I mean, yeah, there's got to be enough muscle to hold back all that. That's what you're doing.
Sure.
But I don't ever even think about my corners, which is weird, you know, but I never ever think about that.
I don't think about them either, yeah.
I think about my throat and my aperture, how wide I want my aperture to be. That's what I think about when I play.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and that saved me from, you know, I had a devastating injury on I had cut myself so bad the night before we opened. I was in the Disneyland All-American College Band.
Okay.
And the night before we opened, I cut my chops.
Oh Lord.
And I played the entire summer on bleeding cut chops playing lead trumpet.
Wow.
So I have a really bad injury, you know, big gash there. And so I had to learn. It was do or die, man. If I didn't figure it out, I was done. So
it's a very physical thing. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, especially with trumpet, that if I had, you had the Easter ham on Saturday, you had a lot of salt. Your chops are not vibrating on Monday because you're dehydrated and your body's not, whereas you stick a reed on a saxophone, it's going to vibrate if you get enough air through it, so there's a lot of things to figure out, but also Stephen and I talk about this. You're going to figure it out in your practice room. Try to figure it out here. You want to sound sad in your practice room. When you go out, you want to go and play. You want to play music. You don't want to think about the calisthenics of the instrument. You want to already be pre-programmed to go play music, play a phrase, have a play the vibe. If it's a sad tune, have the vibe of a sad tune, or like Danny and I were talking about, have the energy of a rock thing. Being able to go out and get that done. There's a lot of tricks to it. So I'm very confused. I think I'm going to take up golf.
Same thing. Don't do it. It's even worse. Oh. I took a trip to my friend's Kevin Delaney, man, and he made mouthpieces with me. He and I made our mouthpieces that we play now.
The Patrick's.
No, Steve, it's Katie Custom Brass.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm okay. Yeah, you went for Patrick. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, but I love Steve Patrick.
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
Great too. But we went golfing. Okay, I hadn't golfed in 15 years. I swear this is true. You can ask him, man. And I went out we did a par 3, and I smoked it the first. I killed him. He's a golfer, and I was hitting like 2, 3. I mean, I smoked him, and I'm going. I got it. It's back. I'm in. We went back 2 or 3 days later with our friend Johnny Hodges. I couldn't hit to save my life.
Sideways, everything going slicing.
Everything. Yeah. And I was like, that's trumpet. See, there's no way I want to play golf. It's too friggin' frustrating.
It's the truth. Yeah, it's it's funny because I'm a big fisherman, and fishermen can't golf and golfers can't fish because it's it's a very analytical thing. A lot of people think, you throw bait in the water, blah blah blah, you catch fish, but then you put trumpet on top of that. It's like so I go out with the bass player with Billy Andy Shoshone, and I'm driving 250, 300, 350 yards at the driving range. He's like, oh my God! The next day I go back, I can't hit a ball straight to save my life. I got a putting machine in my office. I'm putting great. I go play a real game. It's like what So whatever, man.
I hate it. That's why I don't play golf. It's too much. I get so frustrated, man. Drives me nuts.
That's just the golf gods suckering you in. You got it. It is. You got to play good the first time, so you pay the greens fees the next time.
That's right. It's like they move the hole just so it lands.
Yep.
Oh man. What we got going on, Steven?
You guys kind of hit on this a little bit, but I want to kind of come back to it a little bit because I think it's a really good point that I actually harp on a lot. Is somebody was asking, outside of trumpet, what would you recommend, learning? And you guys talked about, Carl, you mentioned in your story where Winton told you to go get a book from the library, for example. And I think, for a lot of the young players, there's so much stuff outside of trumpet that you got to look at. So we just had a question to be a little bit more specific on what some of those things are. I've got some thoughts, but I'd be interested for you guys too.
Danny, you hit the first one, and I'll follow you up if you want. What do you think is important? Because I know you have a different. I'll preface this. Can I mention that you have a love affair with trumpet, and you're a professional trumpet player. You've made a living, and you still make a living playing trumpet. But you also have another interest and another business. I don't know if you want to talk about, but maybe that could be a prelim to that.
No, I think it's important. I do real estate. I've been doing that for 18 years here in Vegas, and I did it out of necessity. Really, I was buying a house. I bought a house. I hated my realtor.
Did you?
And I was, man, it was being a schmo, and it was like, I can do that. There's nothing to it. I'll just become my own, and I'll make my own commission, and that was. And then, as soon as I did, every musician in town needed a place. And so they found out, and then it just kind of took off from there, I really dig it. I mean, I enjoy doing it. It's not just because it helps provide money for my family. I actually really enjoy doing it. I have a fabulous partner, and she's really great, man. And we have a great time doing it, and so it takes my mind. I was a big car guy. I'm still a big car guy. I'm a total gearhead.
That's why we get along.
Yeah, man. I used to work on all my cars. That was a big thing. So I'd be practicing. I'd get all pissed off, and I'd go out in the garage, and I'd, put a bigger turbo on my car and change the fuel injectors and, all that kind of stuff back in the day. I mean, that was a great outlet. And it I think if you get too engrossed, at least for me, I shouldn't say someone else, but for me, if I'm too focused on one thing, then I don't get any better at it. You know what I mean? It's almost like you spin your wheels.
Sure.
For me, it's better to let go for a minute, and go do something else, get your mind off it, come back fresh, have a better, outlook on it, I think.
That's great, man. So one of my questions to you, down my list of this hang that we're having was, having other interests and businesses. And so you already answered it, it was that you did it as a necessity, but then you also gained a love for it in the real estate, and it started with cars. And same thing with me, man. I've always been into like mating on fishing boats, and I have my 100-ton captain's license now. I run fish boats up to 60 feet, and I just love that whole thing. I love ripping down motors on boats and cars, and I'm a Mopar guy. I still have my Mopar. I know you're a Tesla guy, and I can't keep up with you, and I want to punch you because I actually have no electric, but I like your Tesla. But yeah, so I think having different things is a very important thing as a growing, whether it be if you're in finance and you play, we have a lot of people here that play for fun on the weekends, which is a really totally, it's a beautiful thing. Especially down here in Florida, you have a lot of retirees that now are picking up the horn again. They made their living doing totally something different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I think it's fantastic, man. I think there's more. I think you almost get more out of it. When you're doing it for a profession, it can become a grind. Depends. I mean, I've been blessed. You've been blessed with some amazing gigs that are fun. I mean, it's just fun. When I go out on stage with Lady Gaga, it is euphoric, man. It's so fun. She is so amazing, and but I've done a gazillion gigs where you go out and you just think,
pay your dues.
Where can I throw this noose, to end this now, And so I think it's great when people do it just because they love, like my brother, who is, he's a world-class drummer. He used to sub for Louis Bellson.
Oh, wow.
In LA. He's that good. And he found he had to do it. He fell into a job that he did very, very well and did that for a long time, stopped playing professionally. And now he's back playing drums, and he's having a gas. Like, he's having more fun than he ever had. You know what I mean? Because he just loves to do it, and he doesn't need the money to do it. He just does it because he loves it, and he does the ones that he wants to do. So that can be a really great experience,
It could be a really great experience. And it's a beautiful thing. And I will just preface it with this. It happens in Florida. I don't know if it happens out west. But just because you love to do it, don't do it for free. Because that messes up the rest of the cats that are trying to make a living. I have a thing where I'm in this town I'm living in, Tampa, St. Pete. They're paying the same money for local gigs that I made 25 years ago when I went to high school here. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I could work at McDonald's and make the same money than what you're paying me. It's just, but you have guys that want to do it because it's not their profession, and they're great players. They can come and do it. And it's just, so it's always it's a double-edged sword, you know, but we've been very fortunate to have gigs and keep gigs. And, you know, that being said, I'm going to go with this. You know, my first call when we were going to Vegas, I couldn't make Las Vegas residency with Diana Ross when I was with Diana, was you. So, and I knew that you could play a lot of different styles well. John Scarpulo, who was the music director, great tenor player and a great friend of mine, now a great friend of yours, you know, obviously talked highly of you when you did the gig. So I want to, there's a difference of being in Lady Gaga's band or Billy Joel's band or whatever.
Yeah.
As a sub, how do you approach? You just went out with BS&T just recently.
Yeah.
You subbed for me on Diana Ross. You've subbed a lot of different things. How do you approach that as kind of like a hired gun?
Sure. Well, you know, like for example, BS&T. Well, for you, you know, I was, first of all, I was freaked out that I'm subbing for you, man. You know, I mean, it was like we weren't really buddies at the time. I knew you know, but it was, you know, it's intimidating, man, trying to fill your shoes, you know. So
stop, man.
No, for real, man. And so
you, man.
I go in there. You know, with that gig, I was just holding on for dear life because that was a tough thing to it was a lot of music.
It's a hard book, right?
That was hard, man. You know, that was hard. And then, but BS&T, like, so I listened to it was Brad Mason that I was subbing for that, and Ravi Best, who's phenomenal.
Yeah,
and, you know, I went in there, man, trying to be like, what can I do to make it comfortable for you guys? Like, I just want to be Brad Mason. I want to do what he does. Yep. I don't want to do any more than he does, any less than he does. I just want it to feel like I'm filling that void just for that moment. I'm not trying to hold the spotlight. I'm not trying, you know what I mean? I'm not trying
to.
Very
important. You just said that's why you're working. That's why you're working.
Well, that's true, man, because, you know, if you go in and you're just trying to blast your stuff all over somebody else's gig, to me, that's super disrespectful. Like, I can't stand when that happens. You know, it's like you're there because somebody respects you enough to think that but you're not trying to take their gig. And if you're doing that, you're going to stop working, you know, right?
I get a kick out of guys, and it's happened, and I'm sure you probably had subs like this too. You know, guys who come out to sub and they offer the music director, well, I'm going to write a chart for this or on page 3, you know, the second chorus is wrong and it's off on 4. I'm going to mark these parts differently. No.
Right.
Just know your place.
They do, man.
You know your place. You know, I'll come in and try to play a solo differently, a totally different vibe or something, or you know. And those guys don't last long in the business,
right?
You know, and now, you know, I hate to say it now too, though, and maybe we can talk about this. There's not a lot of gigs now to sub on, because the guys are hanging on to what we're all trying to hang on to what we have.
Yeah. And most gigs only have, if they have a trumpet, it's one from, you know, and if most don't even have trumpets anymore, you know, it's tough, man. So you don't,
so if you get the call,
piss anybody off, right?
Yeah. If you get the call, man, just try to morph. And that's a sage advice from a guy that's done it for years. Just cover the book. Don't do any less and don't do any extra to make it comfortable.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
I'll tell you, I was sweating, man. I had to play that solo with Diana. I can't remember the thing where you go.
Oh, the Latin thing?
No, the Flugel thing.
Like the Don't Explain, the Billie Holiday song.
Dude, I was listening to the stuff you were playing, and I'm just like, forget, what am I going to do? You know, so I was like, well, maybe I'll just copy your solo. And then I was like, no, because then that'll piss him off thinking I'm trying to play his solo. Like, but I'm not much of a soloist, man. And I'm sweating bullets every night on that, man. Like, I just want to like kind of stay in the background, play a little, you know. You played so beautifully on that, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
I'm telling you, man. I was just listening to it, trying to get ideas of, you know.
Oh, thanks.
Beautiful.
Well, you said it also too. It's like when you have, you know, with Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns, you have wonderful trumpet player who's playing second. His name's escaping me. Oh man,
he's fantastic, man.
And he has great chops and great solos.
He's got great everything.
You're fortunate you have a great supporting player that can play great. You have 2 trumpets, but when you go on BS&T does 2 trumpets too, but on Diana there was 1 trumpet, so you have to do a lot of different things. And so you brought up the fact as a 1 trumpet gig, you have to be able to switch hit, and if you can't, man, there's a lot of guys like, I just play lead. And I remember you and I were talking, and you were saying about the soloing on Don't Explain. I'm like, just play Danny, and I heard it, man, and John was like, man, you did Danny, man, it was great. So a lot of guys who think they have a weakness in a certain thing, like my weakness is classical playing. I have a lot of weaknesses, but my biggest weakness is classical playing. But just do the job enough. Wayne Bergeron, I was watching an interview with Wayne just recently. Do the gig enough to get the vibe through.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like a Charlie Schluter thing, or Danny Falcone blazing trumpet, scream solo. Just be cool with it, and don't let on to, hey, this is not what I do, because.
That's my weakness. I always do. Man, I suck at this. I don't want. I should never say that.
We're both very like that. Yeah, it's like we both. When I was with Maynard, if I played a bad solo, I remember Maynard told me, and Ed Sargent, the road manager, told me a few times, get off that solo mic. Don't sulk. Be happy.
Yeah.
You went up to the solo mic. You think you maybe struck out, but you're selling yourself short. And you're selling the reaction to the audience that you sucked.
Right.
Don't give them that.
Yes.
It's part of show business.
That's right.
And that with Gaga and playing these shows, 8 shows a week, 6 days a week, there's going to be some bad times across the board, whether you're a drummer or singer or whatever. Get through the show. Yep. It's very important. I'm sorry I went on a tangent.
Oh man, I get it. You're dead on about that.
Sometimes I am. Is there a swordfish? No, I'm kidding. Steven, how we doing out there, man? We have a hang? Oh, we lose everybody. Getting philosophical.
No, we got more than we started with, so we're doing good.
Oh boy.
Let's see. We did have a couple other questions. Let me scroll back here. One comment. Luis Juarez, you guys were talking about Maynard and his sound, but Luis made the comment about how Maynard used to feature so many great people, and he's just saying that he was thankful that he got introduced to other great players like yourself, Carl, as a result of Maynard being willing to feature people like that. So thanks for that, Luis. Noah says, love hearing all these Tom Jones stories. Frank Abrahamson, speaking of the Maynard crew. Hey guys, great time. Dave and Ellen Barbera jumping in. Travis Goodwin says he's with St. Louis Music and Alvarez and Dixon drums, which Greg Bissonette plays.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Cool. So we got that. Nathaniel says he's always wanted to try one of those old cons really badly. That sound from so many guys, his favorite. Love Maynard on the con, Brian McDonald, Freddie, so many on those cons. Also commented about the how great the talk about playing efficiently was. Let's see. We had somebody asking about like the business side of music for you guys.
Oh boy.
So outside of trumpet playing, because I'll just say it. You guys know just as well as anybody that you're not able to just be a trumpet player anymore. Right. You're a trumpet player, you're a social media person, sometimes you're a photographer, sometimes you're a video editor, sometimes you're a bunch of different things. How do you guys handle the business side of your playing, and how would you explain to a younger student what they should look for?
I'm going to defer to you on that one.
Thanks. So basically the question in a nutshell is, how do you handle the business?
Yeah. Like, getting the gigs,
Okay.
How do you talk to people?
So here's the thing: if you're asking that question, your job, whoever he or she, should open your ears up to hear. The answers have been the question has been answered multiple times already tonight. It's and I'm not saying this to be facetious, but I'm saying when Danny comes in and morphs himself into playing a book for Diana Ross and not playing more or not playing less than what the gig asks for. When you come in and don't try to change arrangements or say I'm going to write arrangements. When you come in as a player and try to morph into the section and play fifth trumpet on Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, play fifth trumpet on a show when you're 15 years old, and just be cool and be humble and modest. Not knowing all the answers, and the biggest thing I see with younger players is the attitude. Is the unhumbleness where I want to smack them. And there's a sense of entitlement with young people right now that drives me absolutely freaking crazy. You can go on the internet. I say this at clinics all the time. You can go on the internet all day long and hear Freddie. You can hear Danny crush things. You can hear, Kathleen Battle sing an aria that's absolutely gorgeous. It's the difference of seeing it on your computer and living it and going out and having that visceral, those vibes shake you in a different way. Seeing how they interact with people. Seeing how Wynton interacts with people and looks you in the eye and talks to you about certain things. About, hey man, you really should check out this. Or, those are the things that are remissed right now in the community. And that's one of the reasons why I think I love doing these hangs, is because it's more of a one-on-one thing. So what I'm getting at is, it's just open, take your blinders off, and be interested in a lot of different things. I think it's just very important. I know I'm going on the tangent. Danny, am I missing something on this?
No, it's funny. So as a kid here in Vegas, and I'm sure you were the same way, I went to everything. Anytime I heard anybody that I respected was playing, I found a way. Like, I don't care if it was 21, I'd sneak in the back. Yeah. I remember going to hear Walt Johnson with Sinatra at the Gold Nugget and standing at the back door like this, man, just trying to get through the crack just to hear him.
Yep.
Like, and then he would come out and I would, Mr. Johnson, any way I could take a lesson with you, I'd be so, I don't see that anywhere.
It's not there anymore.
It's crazy. But like, for example, every Monday, you've got 14 guys up there that are, I take myself out of it.
Stop.
The rest of that band, but those guys are brilliant, like genius people that people could study with and ask questions. Nobody shows up. Nobody's waiting at the back door when we come out to talk to us. Nothing. Crazy. It's like, what happened, man? Where is that desire, that burn to want to learn? You know what I mean? That's what did it for me, was being around all these people and picking their brains, and that was so important. So important.
I just turned 50. One of my favorite hangs in the last 2-3 months was I went out to Vegas. Danny and I played cons in our hotel room, and then we went out and ate Indian food, talking about Maynard and enjoying Maynard. We ate Indian food in honor of Maynard, and we talked, through 2-3 hours, and that to me was the most fun I've had in ages. And it sounds, hey, well, you're 50 years old, you're going out and eating Indian food and having gas. It was a gas. It was fun because we were talking about all the things that get us interested in the music, and we don't see that. My favorite thing was when I was 15 years old, going to Blue Note and seeing Alan Wise and Stan Mark playing the Blue Note, or with Maynard Ferguson, and going across the street and Alan Wise and Stan buying me a hamburger and talking trumpet. I'm like, how cool, direct communication. So I just think the world is a small place with the computer, but get through the computer and come out to these shows now. Now that the world's opened up, I think that will. And also, scholastic things have changed too. Everybody's bringing in great artists, and you have a lot of clinicians coming into schools, and that's wonderful. But go above and beyond. I just think that's very important if you're going to try to emulate. And then, you want to duplicate someone's sound and their vibe, but you also want to morph into your own personality. And I think you have to go through that process of hearing it live is very important.
And hanging, like, He was always like, Bobby Shue, man.
Hang.
Bobby's
Go out and eat.
Hang. Yeah, go eat, man. Go hang with him. Carl, go talk to Carl. Go pull him out. Go have
hang and eat. I mean, you learn more about a person hanging and eating.
Totally.
Yeah, very important. I knew Danny was a car guy when I got in this. We were messing around with a Tesla. That's it's cool to have other interests. I'm sorry, we're both going on a tangent right now.
No, this is good stuff though, because I think that's something that I got to experience that 25 some odd years ago. And actually I'll Carl as you guys know can have a very direct approach, because you guys have experience, and you've done things, and you've been around people. And I remember one time 25 years ago, you brought me on Maynard's bus, and
I did.
Yes, yeah.
I don't remember this.
I was talking music, I was talking this, I was like, hey, tell me about the book, tell me about the mouthpieces, this back, and you're like, there's time for that. He's like, but now's the time to listen. And I was like, I mean, under 20 years old at that time, and when I stopped asking questions, I started hearing Maynard tell stories. I started hearing Reggie Watkins talking about doing arrangements. I started hearing Tom Garling talk about doing stuff. I got to hear you interacting with Scott Englebright or with Pete Ferguson, or I mean, there was some crazy, less educational information, but that I think that was important too, because it's not always about trying to get your point out there and being heard. You learn more by not being heard.
My friend's father had this, my buddy Rich, man, I probably shouldn't say that, but on his wall, his dad put a big poster and it said, "Silence is the beginning of wisdom."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, this is like a 14-year-old kid. He put it up on his room. Like, this is the time to start learning,
Yeah.
And that's the key, man. Listen, stop talking. Everybody I know, all these younger people, they want to tell you everything. They tell you everything. And it's like, are you here to learn something, or are you here to try to tell me what you know? Like, I respect what you know. That's great. But,
Yeah.
And then the social media guys, trumpet players, saxophone. Hey, can you swing? Can you do this? And they play an example, and it's like, shut up. I don't want to hear you talking about. It's like, come on, dude. Really? Can I, like, enough. It's, my whole thing is be in the environment of, you can't learn if you're talking. Mm-hmm. Same thing when you're playing. If you can't hear the guy playing next to you, you're playing too loud, right? In a trumpet section or a trombone section, if you can't hear, if you're a drummer and you can't hear the bass player, first of all, that's a major problem. It's a community thing. So once you start forcing things on people, hey, can you do this? Hey, check this out. It's great, but it's that social media me and I syndrome, and it's not me and I syndrome. It's us. Right. And we're together. It's us. We're hanging out. We're talking about shit. It's us. Danny's saying something. Steven's saying something. Winton's saying, go read a book on something totally opposite. And the reason why he told me that was I was doing what Steven was doing. I was like, hey, what do you think about if I'm blowing a blues, if I play this note on a 4-chord and blah, blah. And he's like, stop. Go read a book. Try to communicate. And he didn't say communicate at that point. But it's really... It's a humble thing too, it keeps yourself in check, I think.
Yep. No, I think it's good, and I think especially for a student that's coming out right now, don't forget about those soft skills too, like learning how to talk. Some people, the first introduction to you that you're going to get is through an email. If you can't communicate in the right way, it makes your ability to get a gig more difficult. Learn things like follow-up. Learn things like networking. If you write something and nobody ever responds to it, then, what was the point of writing it in the first place? It's don't forget about those little things too. So, but I know we went down a...
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole. Danny, how many trumpet players and musicians have reached out to you and your late father saying, hey, man, that gig is mine, or come across so to the point where you don't even know how to even respond? I mean, I'm sure you still get them.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has. And you're right. I don't know how to respond, because it's not in my nature to go after somebody,
Sure.
but it's baffling to me the way that some people are. But what's really baffling is how some guys come on gigs and have no etiquette.
Yeah.
That too, that's something people need to learn is etiquette. Like when I growing up, man,
Your
I mean,
dad would smack you.
oh, dude, you have
My
no
dad did.
idea. Oh my God, man. It was like, oh, I learned some serious etiquette. And then you have to have etiquette for the other trumpet players who are you're playing with, right? Like you have to understand what your role is. If you're in with more than one trumpet player, what's your role? Are you playing first trumpet, second, third, fourth? Each one has its own unique role. You got to do something special. And if you don't know that and you're playing lead trumpet from the third or fourth book, you know what I mean? Like that's etiquette. Like you have to know that. And kids aren't learning that stuff. I don't know why they're not learning. Maybe because that kind of music is not as prevalent, but a lot of colleges still have big bands and stuff. And that carries over to a lot of things in life. It's not just you got to learn not to cap the lead player, or you know what I mean? But that carries over when you're at the grocery store and somebody's talking and it's life lessons,
Sure.
and they're not getting it. And I think and I hate to be like the old dude in the club, man, but it's that social media crap. It's all me. Look at how cool I am. Look at all the gigs I'm doing. Look at how great I am. Right. We all have to live in that environment and it sucks. And I hate it. I really do, for that purpose. But I think some people can't separate reality from Facebook or Instagram. And they come on the gigs and they're just all about themselves. They're not thinking about
the band.
Yeah, not at all. Or the music. They're thinking about how can I use this to promote myself to get to, and that sucks, man. I hate it. It's a whole different thing than what I grew up with,
Yeah, it's not about the team.
Right.
I actually tell people, I've had this conversation with a lot of people. It's not always the popular thing to say, but I always come back to one of my favorite quotes, and I don't know where it originated from, but it's basically, don't confuse your right to have an opinion with your right to be correct or incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
You do have the right to have an opinion, but that opinion can be 100% wrong. so don't confuse that. But anyway, we got a couple other things here in the chat. Wanted to call out. Carl, we were just talking about hanging. Luis says there's an Alan that always talks about you, Carl, and when he bought you a hamburger, and you guys just sat and talked over a hamburger all the time.
Alan Wise.
Yeah.
Alan Wise.
Yep. Alan Wise.
Second trumpet player with Maynard Ferguson for 10 and a half, 11 years. Yeah. Right? Louise, you got to be talking about Alan. Alan is, remember that section? Danny, both you guys remember. It was Stan Mark, Alan Wise, Hobie Freeman was one of the other guys. And there was Alan and Stan were like the stewards for that band for years, man.
Yeah.
And they were hysterical together. They were, frickin' frack.
Whose throw could be bigger?
Remember that? And like the really fluorescent blue shirts.
Yeah.
And Alan was, back then, when I was a kid, Alan was selling all the stuff. He was selling shirts after he was the merch guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Stan was the original merch guy, and then Alan took it over. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man. Those guys. I know Alan's still around and Stan's still around. I think, isn't Stan out by you? He's in Denver or something like that?
Oregon, I think.
Oregon, that's right. Okay, yeah, he's far from you. But yeah, those guys, hearing that band, that 70s band, that trumpet section on top of Maynard, blowing your head off. Then hearing Stan and Alan in that trumpet section, Randy Purcell on trombone. Eric Traub on tenor saxophone. Wow. Remember Eric? He was actually I played a couple sessions with him in up north somewhere. I can't remember where, but man, that band was just
that was on fire, man. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah,
in the heyday, the Rocky days, 78,
hey, dude, 79. Out in the audience, having Stan Mark right here. No. Yeah, I've lost hearing. Forget about it. You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
It was a rock concert.
It was.
I'm gonna combine two questions and turn you guys loose on them.
He's getting fancy, Danny.
Yeah. Well, so Greg and Kevin have two questions that are kind of similar, but not. The first piece of it is, if you guys could pick one person to play one song with, who would it be? That's the first part. I'll let you guys go on the first part.
It would be Maynard for me. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You know.
For as selfish as I am, I had wonderful times with Maynard. I was very fortunate. I would still be Maynard because I miss him every day. And that will lead me, hold that second question, that will lead me to, Danny should have been, Maynard loved Danny. Danny should have been on the band. And explain, there was a time in your life you had a lot of things going. You had a life that you couldn't afford, if I remember correctly, you couldn't afford to come out with us. You already had a gig. Yeah. And that was part of the reason why I left on and off for 12 years. I come in, but explain to me that situation, because it wasn't because you weren't invited. You were invited on the band many times.
Yeah, I think I got 3 or 4 calls over the years. And man, I had just bought my first house. I was out with Tom Jones. And I think at that time I was making this is like 98.
You're making money.
I was making some serious money for me. I mean, at that time I had been making money. $400 or $500 a week. All of a sudden I'm making 5 times that, and so I bought a house, and I found this became my wife, and all of a sudden I get a call to go out with Maynard. Now I would have dropped everything had I not had a mortgage to pay, but he offered me, I think, $400 a week.
That's what the starting pay was, $400.
And I would have had to lose my house. Now in retrospect, I almost now would say, yeah, I should have sold the house and gone out with Maynard, just to have that experience, to be with him, you know what I mean? Because of how much I loved him and respected him, but I couldn't give it up. I just couldn't do it. And so I do regret that, man, a lot. I think, how much, because I got to play with him. In fact, if you look right, see if my finger can go over there, right there, that little poster right there.
Yes, sir. Talk to us about that.
I was with the McDonald All-American High School Band, and we opened the jazz band. We opened for Maynard in Wichita, Kansas. And probably the highlight of my life was playing Rocky with Maynard. Yep. He came out, we played it, and I got to play first trumpet, playing all that stuff. And he came out and played. And man, that's there's nothing in I don't think musically ever that had elevated me to that thing. I mean, I can't even describe it, because you lived it. But for me, that was my one.
For all of us, Danny. For all of us.
So that, I really regret not going out with him, man, and not doing that,
And Danny, I'll tell you, you took your own path.
Yeah.
And that's our Maynard. We talked about this when I hung with you too. It's for lack of a better, we don't have many regrets. So that's one of your regrets. But Maynard would say, "Hey, you did good otherwise." One of my regrets was just before Maynard passed away, that last record at the Bennett Studios he was doing, and that week at the Blue Note, I got called for that, and I just got the gig with Billy. I just did 6 months with him, and I talked to Maynard, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to Europe. I'm supposed to go to Italy, and blah blah blah." And Maynard said to me point blank, "I make the money. There'll be other times." And 5.5 weeks later, I'm talking to him an hour before he dies, or a couple hours before he dies. And that was a regret. It's like there wasn't another time. However, what I'm getting at is we had these experiences, and again, it's the one-to-one thing. And what, again, freaks me out so much, and why it was very important for me to have Danny, especially on tonight, is because you go out and hear Danny's sound, there's a reason why that sound's there. That reason of that sound is a heritage of a lot of great things, man. But it's still Danny. It's not a guy ripping someone off. It's Danny, but it's got this thing. And as a musician, whether it be a Billy Joel singer, or you want to sing like David Lee Roth or Journey or Steve Perry, or whatever you're trying to do it to your best ability, and then make it your own. And we're all gonna have regrets, but we still are Maynard heads.
I tell you, I think about it. I probably, if I had gone out with Maynard, I probably wouldn't be married to my wife, and that would be the worst.
That would
That's
be you regret
way
it.
worse than
Good comeback.
I married way above. You know what I mean?
You
I
did.
got real lucky.
Got a beautiful family.
Yeah,
got
man.
a beautiful wife, man. You know, you did the right thing. I'm telling you, man, you did the right thing.
You want to hear?
I'll be on.
About
Go
that?
ahead.
So my wife, when I met her, she's much younger than I. She's 9 years younger than, now almost 10. And so Maynard was so important to me that I tested her. So first I would play like John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman when she would come over to dinner and see how she hung with that. She dug it. So then I said, hey, I'm going to take you to this concert. I want you to check this out. And Maynard was at the Riviera.
Oh, wow.
You might even been on the band. I'm trying to think. But
was that the night when I came out? We stole.
It was 99, like around, January 16th, 2001. That's when that was.
Wow. Yeah, that was the one, Carl.
That was the gig. That was
the one.
Big hat.
I was there too.
The whole trumpet section. Yeah, it was a fun. Lynn Nicholson was there.
Was he?
I think so.
I don't remember that. Maybe so. My memory's not great, but I do remember that I brought her there because I wanted to see if she couldn't hang with that. If she gave me any grief, then it was over. Honest to God. And she was cool, man. She dug the whole thing. And she was like, well, that was pretty cool, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, she's put up with a lot of trumpet over the years, man. That's for sure.
That's awesome. And you know what? You know, you're talking about buying houses and you're finally making money. You sacrificed a lot to be where you're at. You know, you weren't, you know, your dad was a musician. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth, nor was I. When I was out with Maynard making $400 a week for a long time, I lived in New York City. I had to put my shit in storage multiple times. I couldn't afford that. And when I got off the road, I'd stay at my parents' house in Florida, or at the time I had a girlfriend that lived in San Diego. I bounced everywhere. I couldn't even afford a car, keep in my car. I had to sell my car. But these are the things that you did, you know, and throughout your life to do what you wanted to do. And so everybody made their choice. You know, to me, that was my college. I paid out. I would leave the tour owing the tour money. Right. I remember, you know, having and you owe $1,000 to the tour. Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, okay. And so I couldn't get fired. I owed money. I had to come back. You know, so it was that type of thing. But we all did things, all of us that, and I wished, and you know, I think might be our responsibility, Danny and Stephen, is to give these. That needs to be reciprocal. You know, I mean, like, I wish there was more opportunities where younger people had these opportunities to do these things. It's just not. You know.
Can I bring something up about that real quick?
Please. Okay.
I'm sorry if I'm boring you, you know, or anything.
No, you're not.
So you mentioned my bro Kenny Rampton, who's, you know, I love Kenny to death. Kenny and another great trumpet player here named Gary Cordell started something called Jazz Outreach Initiative, which is somewhat of an outshoot from Lincoln Center. Yep. And Kenny and I had talked many times about how important it was being mentored by these guys at the union, right? So we would go to the union, the guys would pull us up, you know, Tony Krapis and John Harner and Mike Paulson, Dave Culp, all these great trumpet players, monsters. And they'd put the kids next to them on the lead book. They'd play a phrase, you know, we'd be playing some Bob Florence shirt, whatever. They'd play it, and then on the repeat, you play it.
Yep.
Right? So it was like, man, you can't get better education than that. So Kenny started this thing, and he's asked a bunch of us in town to mentor young kids.
I love it.
And we're doing it, man. And we have a band of kids from around the city, and it's a big band, and we get to play great charts and stuff. And all the mentors sit behind them or in the section with them and play, and they can ask questions, and we'll kind of teach them. And it's been a phenomenal thing. And then that band, actually, now we have the Mentor band, which is its own big band. And we just recorded an album, and Wynton's going to play on it. And it's killing, man. I mean, it's just amazing what's going on. So we're trying to do that, to give back a little bit. And thank God for Kenny and Gary and their you know, insight to do something like this. They've really worked their butts off, man, and gotten sponsors and everything. It's really quite spectacular. So check it out. Joy Jazz.
Joy Jazz. I remember you and I talking about it, and I actually talked to you the same day you were going into the session, and you posted a nice video of that session recently. Yeah. And I got to tell you, Kenny, you know, has now been in New York for years, but I met Kenny when he was on Ray Charles's band. We did a thing I was with Maynard and Ray Charles, and we did a festival, And he just moved to New York. And throughout the years, I'd see him on the street, and New York thing is, hey man, how you doing? I remember him starting to play lead gigs, and I was a jazz player. Everybody in New York, you were stigmatized. Oh, he's a jazz player. He's classical. Oh, he's a lead player. And Kenny was starting to play lead gigs and Latin gigs, and we'd see each other on the street and have like these little like powwows for 3 minutes at a stop sign or something, just rapping. And still to this day, he's a very, and I don't have to tell you this because he's your homeboy from Vegas. He's a very, and the whole band at Lincoln Center, they're a big proponent of trying to do the right thing and bring the kids and adults together and make it a community. So I think that's important. So check out JOI. What is the exact? Was there a website they can go to?
Look up that website because I can't remember, but it's Joy Jazz, JOI Jazz. I'm going to look it up right now.
And I think they're in New York right now. I think the band's in New York.
Yeah, UNLV.
Right?
Yeah. It's called the Jazz Outreach Initiative.
Okay.
.org. JazzOutreachInitiative.org. Yeah, UNLV's there actually right now.
In Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
Yep. So there it is. I love it. I think we hit those questions.
Yeah. Right.
So you know what? We'll hit one or two more, and then we're hitting on 10 after 10. We can't hang too much longer, but let's see
still
what
with
we
us?
can hit. What's that, brother?
Is there anybody still with us?
Yeah. Did we lose everybody? Steven left.
Yeah, I'm out of here. No, we still got a good chat going on over here. I think everybody's just kind of listening because the viewers are going up, but everybody's just kind of taking it in. So,
well, Danny and I can hang, and Steven is doing a good job. Thanks.
Yeah, man.
Speaking of which, I'm going to let my dog in. Answer the question. I'm going to let my dog in. I hear her barking.
What do we got, Steve? Anything?
Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff. Let's see. We got Kevin is asking if you had to pick 3 of your most memorable performances, what would they be?
Go ahead, Danny.
Well, I think that the number one probably would be playing with Maynard. That was pretty amazing. Then probably second would be playing with Stevie Wonder. I got to do a TV show. Yeah, man. We got to play 2 or 3 tunes with Stevie. It was, I think, at the American Country Music Awards or something. And he was with a young kid. What's his name? Hunter Hayes. And Hunter had won. He's like the Prince was. He's like that for country music. He played every single instrument, sang. Kid's like a freaky talent. And somehow they paired Stevie Wonder with him. And I got a call to put the horn section together, and got to do that, man, and hang, and then got to literally hang out with Stevie Wonder for 2 hours afterward and listen to him play and compose a tune. I mean, it was like freak out level of excitement.
Sure.
God, there's been so many. I don't mean that. There's been so many wonderful opportunities. Maybe, I think playing with. I think that first gig with Tom Jones was pretty cool too, man. Just there and play. It was only one. I was the only trumpet. It was just 3 horns, and be thrown into that and have God create this miracle that I could play. When it would not have happened. That was pretty stellar moment in my life.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. One of the other questions that we had is, and Carl, you too, from the standpoint of, I know you've done some of this stuff with moving out. How do you guys approach when you're on a pop gig and that gets moved into more of the Broadway or Vegas show style? Because obviously, moving out was a little bit different than how you do the tunes with Billy. And also for you, Danny, I mean, I've heard some of the stuff from the Lady Gaga show in Vegas. Obviously it's not the Q101 pop radio version of the tunes. How do you guys take, the original tunes and approach those things, in that manner?
It's all about the music and the gig and the artist. You're not gonna phrase a Broadway show when Billy comes out and is playing at the Garden, and the audience is on 12, and you're not going to play. There's a lot more excitement that goes on a live performance compared to like a very time coded Broadway danceable thing where everything, the set changes at 0:36 and then 0:58. It's a big band thing, and it's consistent for a reason. So your spots on the Broadway thing, which particularly moving out, were very consistent and well placed. Where Billy, you never know what you're going to get. And so, any show for that matter, whether it be live or regurgitated set of things, Billy's very cognizant of 80% of his show is pretty much the same, and you have 20% that we don't know what the hell's going on, and it's a beautiful thing. And so it's just about the music and the gig and the artist at that point. So, and there's a sense of reckless abandon. I'll never forget what Billy said to us just before Chuck Berge and I, the drummer, and I joined in 2005. And the first gig was in 2006, in January, in Florida. And we rehearsed for 2 weeks, and we didn't, at the end of the rehearsal, we still had like 15 or 20 tunes that we wanted to go over. And I remember Billy talking to Chuck saying, we were like, hey, are we going to do these tunes? I was behind Chuck. I was like, oh, what the hell? And Chuck tells the story great. Billy goes to the piano, walks up the scale, and he goes, where we end, who knows? Let's keep it fresh and have fun. Now just have fun. You know the music. Come on.
Wow.
And so there's a sense of reckless abandon there that is kind of fun, I think, in a live situation where it's nothing's canned and it's, you mess up, it's for real. So I think that's the big difference with my scene with Billy. How is it with Gaga? Because I know she does a lot of different music when she's on tour with her, with the big band compared to the small band stuff.
Yeah. We're doing Great American Songbook stuff mostly, and then some covers of her tunes in a little different way, so we'll do Paparazzi or
cool.
Poker Face or whatever.
Nice.
And, I just approached that show trying to make it swing as hard as I can, because she's really she really wants to be a jazz singer. I mean, this woman is so dedicated, bro. I'm telling you. And she is so on her instrument is as good as any I've ever heard anybody. I mean, she is limitless in what she can do. Honestly, she's unbelievable.
Wow.
And so she reveres the music, and she really loves the band. Like, all of a sudden lately, she's come out of her shell with us, and she's interacting constantly with us on stage. And it's great, man, because it really kind of frees you up to enjoy what you're doing. I'm not so afraid of making a mistake. It's got to be
Sure.
She wants it to be raw and swinging, and
I love it.
It's really fun, man. I'm like having a ball. I'm like a kid again. I'm really enjoying it, and
Great.
so it's cool, man. Just trying to make it as exciting as I can. That's my goal. I'm just trying to create excitement in the little bit that I can do,
I love it. And so, talking about excitement, you have another couple weeks or one more week on?
Yeah, we have 2 more weeks of shows.
So if you guys are coming, if anybody's coming through Vegas, where is it and what days are it?
It's at the Park MGM. It's called the Park MGM. It's Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Just 3 shows a week.
And it's a full big band.
Full big band with strings.
Just like the Grammy when you guys were in the Grammys.
That band.
Yep.
Yeah, the strings were augmented for the Grammys, so there aren't as many strings live as there were there. But yeah, same band, and she's got her core guys. Brian Newman, trumpet player out front, Steve Cortica, Alex they're brilliant guys. I mean, they really play great. And
That's great.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. In fact, I hung last night with Brian and a couple of the guys. They came to Santa Fe.
Oh, nice.
Went and had a little dinner, and it was a good hang. They're good people, man.
That's great. That goes a long way.
Yeah, and she is too. She's really a nice person, and she really respects. She's constantly thanking us for, she's like, yeah, I know you guys could play with anybody. I mean, it's like, what? You're Lady Gaga, like, and she's like, I just appreciate that you came and spent your time with me, and like,
Awesome.
She's cool, man. Yeah, it's nice. It's really a
That's
nice
great.
gig.
I love it. What? Talk to me about the Grammys. How was that? It's always doing a live broadcast is always interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, man. It's a lot of waiting around, and like we got there we rehearsed it. That was cool.
With Lady Gaga.
Yeah. Yep. Then the next day we came in and got there at like 10 in the morning, and they did a whole run through of the Grammys, top to bottom. So wherever we were in that, we played, I think it was at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Then we didn't go on until 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, geez.
So it was an 8-hour wait.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's hard, man. It's hard to keep the energy. And then you get up there and then it's like, all right, go. Everybody gets on stage. You got about 3 minutes, ready, go. And you got to be on. Like as if and meanwhile, we're all just like food comaed and totally tired and sweating from being in a room for 8 hours. TV is not as glamorous as it appears. That's for sure,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're stuck with whatever the mixing guy decides to do, So, you're playing, everybody's working their butt off, and then you go listen back and you don't even hear what you played, so it's a little disappointing sometimes, but you can't control it, man.
Can't control it. That sounded good though, man. It was good seeing the band, especially the big band, you guys doing it.
Yeah.
And, it was cool. It was
nice. I saw a couple. There was somebody named Nas. Are you hip to that?
Yeah, Nas.
He had a big band. They were killing, man.
Yeah,
that was good. So it's just nice to see real instruments up there once in a while,
Imagine that.
That much.
I got one more question, and then I actually have two more questions, but I'm going to pose one more question, then we'll have one more from the fish heads. You talked about waiting for 8 hours. As a trumpet head, how do you keep your chops in shape? Whether it be you didn't play for 6 days and you got to do Santa Fe, Sunday you're working on your stuff, or you have, an 8-hour layover on the Grammys, and what's your methodology of keeping everything going?
Well, I mean, I guess those are two real different things for me. So if I'm not playing, like during the pandemic where there's no work, even now there's almost no work, I have a routine that I do that I've developed over 15 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that routine, if I do that every day, that keeps me in enough shape that I know I can get through, I may not be at 100% strength, but I'm in the 90s, I can get through whatever, as long as I'm doing that, that's what I do. When I have like an 8-hour break between things, as long as I've warmed up right, I'll just flutter a ton, just keep blood going in there. Every so often I'll pull the horn out and just play some, nice, soft, pretty things. Like Wayne Bergeron has a really cool thing that I've been doing where he expands by half steps, kind of something that I did before, but I think a hipper way. Like he'll be like G, A flat, F sharp, G, A, F, and keep
going up,
half
steps. Wider intervals.
Yeah, but try to do it like really quiet, like really whisper, and try to not allow anything to get in between the intervals.
Nice.
And that I really like doing that, especially if I have a long time. So I'll do that maybe every other hour, every hour. I'll just pick it up, kind of do that. I watched a video of Wayne doing that, and I was like, man, that's cool. So, and that's been helping me actually. So I just kind of keep it, and then maybe an hour before I start kind of going through some things, and maybe half an hour before I start expanding it a little bit, trying to get in the upper register if I have to play some upper register stuff.
But you're not playing through the whole half hour. You're going
no.
That's important.
Minutes. Yeah.
A couple minutes.
Just a little bit, just so that I know, like, the feel is there. I got enough blood in my chops. It's not too thin. It's not too puffy. And then maybe 15 minutes before, then I'll start hitting it and making sure that it feels good.
It's all there. Beautiful. I love it. I'm going to pick that exercise off you next time.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll give Wayne credit because it's his, and it's good.
I love it. Cool. Yeah. All right. So that being said, let's open up the fish head hang one more time, and then I have one more question for Danny, and we'll put a ribbon on it.
Yeah. Couple quick things. David Heyman joined us. Says hello.
Uncle Dave. I love this guy. He's the best.
Cool. Great saxophonist Sal Giorgiani hanging with us. Says nice show, cats. We had a couple questions kind of along the same lines as you guys mentioned you did the hotel hang, and we had somebody ask what Danny thought about the CF horn when he tried it, and what you thought of the cons that Danny brought.
Yeah. You want me to start, or you want to start?
Go for it.
Man, that CF horn. was killing, right? Didn't you think as soon as I played that horn, it was like, oh man. Yeah. In fact, we were talking about having you make me one or have Terry make one.
Yeah.
So I can check it out.
Yeah, man. Whatever you want, man. We'll put it together.
Yeah. And do they know about your elephant bell? People know about that?
They do. I mean, did you play the elephant or did you play the big bell?
I played both.
The elephant.
I think I played both.
Didn't I? Both out?
No, I played the elephant bell.
Yeah, the elephant. Yeah.
Yeah, you told me about the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, the elephant is
bad, man.
Is this one? Yeah.
That horn is smoking.
Yeah, it's a great.
I felt great on that horn all the way to
amazing.
Bottom to top. It felt beautiful. Yeah, I really like it. I'm a medium bore. Like, I like medium bore horns. Sometimes they're stuffy. You know, like I have a bunch of medium bore New York box. Sound is phenomenal, but it's a little tight. You know, that horn didn't feel tight. That horn felt. In fact, it almost felt too open. It was so efficient. You know, that's cool. Great trumpet, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah, no, I'm very happy with it. So, you know, Danny and I come from the same but different. So I'm a 38B con guy, which is a 438 bore, 5 1/4 inch bell, or 5 1/8. 5 1/8.
I don't know. It's one of the
close. Yeah. And so now Danny's playing the 36B, which is the same bore size, correct? But it's a little more lightweight.
Yeah.
And it's a smaller bell throat.
Yeah.
And so they're both nickel plated. Danny and I have talked about this too. When I got Maynard's horn, I had my dad's 59 con for a while. I still have it, obviously. It was nickel plated. But I had mine stripped and silver plated because the nickel was falling apart. And the horn resonated much better, and I could blend a little bit better in trumpet sections. But that was always my go-to horns for horn design and just what I liked. But there were some notes that were squirrely on it, and you know, going with Besson, going with Yamaha, you know, I really went that medium bore route with a big bell flare. Was always about it. So I never had a 36. I played a 36 years ago for a minute, but you know, I have a collection like Danny does, and we're both big horn collectors.
Hey, there it is, man. Yeah, you bought one of mine.
Yeah. So Danny was I bothered Danny for about 8 months, about 36s, and so he granted he brought what 5 or 6 horns.
Something like that. Yeah, I brought a handful.
It was great, man. I just, you know, I really wanted to see how they played, and they play amazing. And the horn that we got, that, you know, Danny and I both did blindfold tests and I ended up with a great 36, nickel plated with the original case. What was the 63? I think it was. Yeah. Great horn, man. Now again, the bell's a little small for what I like, but it goes along with my 10 cons. It goes, and it's in place of my favorite, you know, in that vintage. For what I do and what Danny does too, I mean, we're very particular on what we want to play. Could I play a gig on any of these horns? Absolutely. Just like Danny could play anything. Danny played my horn and it made it sound better than I could ever make it sound. So I think a lot of it's mental and also a lot of it's feeling. And there's not a lot of trumpet players, I'll give you, you know, I'll also say this, there's not a lot of trumpet players that can reciprocate and talk about what the feel is. I think that's very important, especially when you're testing equipment or, you know, someone is asking you to give a unbiased decision. So it's sound, but it's also minute feel. Mm-hmm. Danny can feel 1,000th of an inch in something, and I think that's very important as a player when you're trying to be efficient and knowing your equipment. So, and being able to talk about that in an effective manner to the engineer and whoever's putting the horn together is very important. So Danny and I have a lot in common in that we're coming from the same place other than bell size, and I guess the 36 has lighter weight braces, correct, Danny?
That's right.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean,
That's a different animal. It plays.
It's a totally different horn, right?
38.
Totally different. I mean, like, it would, you know what would be funny? You playing a 38 on a gig and me playing a 36 in a section. We'd both be like freaking out, but I guarantee you we could do it.
Yeah, we make it work. Yeah.
Make it work, but we don't want to make it work.
It would be work.
Yeah, it would be work.
It's different, you know, it's a whole different blow, even though it's the same horn, basically. The way it responds is very different.
Yeah. So I know you're a geek. So talk to me about your trumpet geekery. You a 36B for years. I mean, you have a collection that's second to none.
Yeah.
And you're always playing different gear. You said you had a couple Yamahas. You
Yeah,
have a million box.
got a Lotus sitting here they sent me. I've got 2 Yamahas sitting here.
You might have a CF horn coming soon.
Dude, I'd love it. Yeah, I'm always trying. I really enjoy messing with gear, and even if it's like, I mean, I know a lot of people just say, "I'll just play." Everybody I know, I just put it in and play it, and if you like it, it works for you. But yeah. I'm not that. I'm 5'5" at best, and $150. You know what I mean? I need every little thing to help me that I can, and if I can pick up a horn and it's a little easier to blow, hey man, why would I not do that? You know what I mean? For me, as long as the feel is right, I don't do big major swings because I played the same mouthpiece basically since I was a kid. I've just made little improvements to it over the years. As my mouth changes or whatever, my equipment changes, I tweak it until it is more efficient. I can play it better. It's less work and I get more output.
Okay.
To me, that's the answer for me, Yep, but that's what I need. So I'm trying different stuff all the time because I'm not, if I can find a horn that gives me a little more spread than the 36, but still, projects as far, I'm on it. I've been trying different bells on 36s. I've been doing all kinds of stuff. Ultimately, I'm back to the same gear I've been playing for 10, 11 years now, but I'm always going to try. It's just part of my nature, man. I'm just always in the hunt for something,
Trying to improve it.
Yeah.
Always trying to improve, and that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people say, well, just practice more, yeah, true, and I do, but I really believe that gear makes a difference. I mean, it's just like anybody else who goes to a job. People have different hammers for different types of nail. I mean, there's go to a tool place, man. There's gazillions of tools, right? Of the same thing. And that's why there's a reason for that, Yep. It's the job easier. And so that's my goal, is to find something that gives me the sound that I want in my head, comes out that way. Like, for example, that Danny Boy recording you were so kind to mention.
Oh, beautiful, yeah.
I played a 22B, a 1956 or something, 22B that I had and had never played, never.
Yep.
I picked it up one day and I played like down to an F sharp, and the F sharp was so massive, like it felt double the size of my 36. And I went, well, that's the horn I'm going to use, because that's the sound I want for the Maynard sound. Is
sure.
I was more important for me to play in the middle register huge than play the upper. I mean, I knew that would come out. Sure. Wasn't too worried about it. As far as what I meant is, I knew the horn would do that.
Sure.
But my horn in that low register didn't have that giant sound that this horn had, and I knew I was going down to the low F sharp and G, and that to me was the pinnacle of the tune, not the double C,
Sure. The musicality part of it.
Imagine that. Yeah. Well, so that's what I played on that recording, so that was a better tool than what I play. It was a better fit for what I was trying to do,
Well, it's very important. And you guys need to check out Danny Boy, Danny Falcone playing Danny Boy. And we'll try to figure out a link on that and post that if you can, Steven, because that's pretty amazing, man. And it reminds me of our friend Lou Soloff, with the mouthpiece bandleader. And I remember with Lincoln Center and many gigs I played with him, he'd play a phrase on one mouthpiece and play another phrase on another mouthpiece and play one note on one mouthpiece, and it was just for the song.
Stories, yeah.
It's crazy, man, and it worked. He could make it work. It was crazy, So
why criticize what what I mean? Like, hey man, if it works and it makes it better, God bless you, do it. I don't care, I don't know why people get hung up on that, man. Where it's like, you got to just play one thing, just for you,
or you have to play a 7C in a Bach trumpet,
right?
A teacher, play 7C in a Bach. I'm like, I was out with Maynard for years with 2 trumpets, a jazz horn and a horn I could blend with the section. And Maynard would be like, that's smart. He was all about it. He was let me try this horn. He'd play it and it would be like, oh my God, And Maynard would play, a couple different trumpets occasionally too. It was crazy, man. Yeah. But whatever works for you is very important. Yeah. But I think also too we could talk about this for hours. Everybody's trying to duplicate the old stuff, whether it be the old Bench, the old Colicchio, the old Bessons, the old Bachs, obviously.
Yeah.
And Con, to me, nothing got over Con. They tried every com- every combination known to man,
Yep.
and not that it's the best company. It's not. But what I'm saying is,
They
a
were
lot of the
innovative.
guys now. What's that?
They were innovative, Con.
Very
They were
innovative.
always pushing the limits.
Always pushing them. Absolutely. And now you have the knockoffs of the knockoffs of the knockoffs, and so, it's very important that guys like yourself, Kenny Rampton making mutes, Winton, I could go on, Mike Del Quattro, Rashawn Ross, a lot of younger guys in our age group between 40 and 60 that know what the real horns were. And even Wayne Bergeron, not even, but Eric and Wayne, they know what those horns were doing back in the day, the old stuff, and trying to make something now that is going to the next level. And I think that's very important. But guys that know those horns need to be stewards of that design.
Well, it's funny, man, you say that because I've been talking to the Bach guys, and we were discussing this new prototype. They're putting out a whole new line, which is basically a throwback to the older box, right? They found tooling. They're being super specific about it and all that. And we got talking about it, and I said, you know what, man? What I want to do is bring back the 36.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we make a modern version, something with better valves, better intonation?
Yep.
And they love the idea. And he's like, look, let me get these box out, and then we'll talk. And he actually said it was April, so I'm going to give him a call and see.
Sure.
They seemed relatively interested in that, and they knew that I knew a lot about these horns because I've owned hundreds of them.
Sure.
And so maybe we'll team up and make one, man.
Yeah.
Phenomenal,
and what's great about Bach is, when it became Con Selmer, with the photos we showed earlier with Bob Reeves, with Fred Powell, Fred and I found the original bell mandrel for 38B at the Con factory in Eastlake, Ohio. We found it up in somewhere that shouldn't have been where it was. And we spun a whole bunch of bells. And my vintage one had a Constellation bell from that mandrel, and I still have a few of them. And so what I'm getting at is, it's as a company, you have this heritage. There was a lot of years, and I know they had the Bench tooling, and now I think Mike Corrigan has Bench. He bought Bench, and there's a lot of guys, tooling gets shifted around. I might have the mandrel for this, I might have the mandrel for this. But it's also the player that's involved that is still playing the old stuff that can actually dictate why it plays that way.
Right.
Very important. Instead of a guy that's playing the 37 Bach his whole life, jumping on something, it's going to feel different. It's going to be unconventional.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good thing for you and the public, is that there's no bullshit. You played enough of these horns. I got 1038s behind me.
Yeah.
There's a reason there's 1038s behind me.
Yeah.
They're great, and my CF horn's based off, these things, and your horns are, so you have there's a method to the madness is what I'm getting at.
For sure.
And it's not made up, so a lot of guys that are playing these Taiwanese, Chinese horn sections are slapping parts together, and they're trying to mimic something of a Monet or something, and it might be good for certain players, but it's kind of a drag.
Yeah. I dig.
That was my outside voice again, wasn't it, Danny? All right. Well, that being said, one more on the chat, and we'll cut it call tonight. Anything else?
Well, we I think you kind of hit the only other question that we had in there.
Good.
Because you guys were talking about. I mean, the question was basically, if you could only have one horn in your collection, forgetting about what gig you're currently on. If it was just for you, for your enjoyment, what would be the one horn you would keep?
That's not fair, man.
I'll say it. I got the 38, my 38B Maynard 1961 horn he gave me. That's silver plated. I played on Maynard's band for 8 years. That would be the one.
Yeah.
It's not great for everything, but that's the horn. It's the horn.
Well, I have Tommy Perello's Burbank 5X Bench that he played on everything from Funny Girl, on Broadway with Barbra Streisand, to Elvis, to Toothless Grin with Woody Herman.
Yeah.
Wow.
San Kenton to, everything he did his whole career, we traded horns, right? I had a sterling silver 37 Bach that played really good.
I heard recordings of you on that horn you sent
Oh
me. It's
man, that horn
ridiculous.
was ridiculous.
Yeah.
We traded horns. I'm not man enough to play that horn. Let me tell you, it is.
Really?
Oh
It's a
my God,
monster.
bottomless pit.
5X.
Yeah, but if you got to understand Tommy, like he literally like I took it to Zig. We rebuilt the valves 3 times to try to the casings, all the internal the tubing was blown open just from the amount of drilling that he did on that horn. I kid you not.
Oh wow.
If you measure the inner diameter of the tube, it's way bigger than stock because he's worn it down. But it's the most beautiful horn. Like if you just play a ballad on it, oh my God. I mean, it's absolutely stunning, the sound. So it is the quintessential sound. And if you're man enough and you can hammer it, there's no horn that puts out more sound.
Wow.
But I just could never get myself to that. I'd already gotten into the efficiency thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And I could never go back. But I think if I had one horn to just sit around and play, that's this one, because the sound is just,
it's about the same.
oh God, it's gorgeous, man. Yeah, it's
I
killer.
love that. Oh
Yeah.
man. Well,
Cool.
there
Well,
it is. I
There's
love
the answer. With that being said, we're about 2 hours and 40 minutes in here.
Swordfish.
Yeah, swordfish. So I'll say thank you to everybody in the chat that submitted questions and comments and concerns. Everybody for chiming in from all over. I know we had not just the U.S. but tonight we had the islands, we had Japan, we had Australia. So thank you guys for chiming in from all over. Really appreciate the support that everybody has given over these 65 episodes and whatever comes in the near future as we figure out what this is going to look like, what form it's going to take. Also thanks to Danny for jumping in here and having
my
it.
honor and pleasure.
The time box that we gave Danny was, it could be 30 minutes, it could be 3 hours. So and he's like, all right. So thank you for that, for the time and
my night off. So it works out beautifully,
There you go. So with that being said, I'll close up the chat for the night, and I'll leave one last comment that just came in from the chat. We mentioned Sal Giorgiani is in the chat. He just said, I just pulled up Danny Boy. Beautiful. The last line from high to low. Wow. So I'll definitely try to post that link in the chat even after we go off the air. But thank you guys, and I'll turn it over to you, Carl. And Danny, please do me a favor and stay on at the end. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cool. So before I get on this kick here, I will say after 65 episodes, it's still fresh and fun, partly because the fish head's coming on and the wonderful guests we've been privy to have come and visit with us and make the hang special. The person I'd like to thank the most, who has developed the hang from the inception to today, I couldn't do it without you, Stephen Wright. Thank you so much for your foresight and your help and being the co-host with the mostest. So thank you, brother.
Oh man, no worries. And if you guys missed any episodes, the whole archive is out there on the YouTube channel. So head out there.
Head out there, and we'll try to make it a little bit more description of who the guests are, because on the last 10 or 15, I didn't label them, or I probably didn't know who the hell the guests were.
In that cup you're drinking there, man.
Yeah, I play trumpet and I drink out of a silver can. You never know what happens. But honestly, it's been a fun 65. We are definitely going to move forward in a different way, in a fun way. It's still going to be the hang. So we're very excited. It's an exciting time to move forward. And we thank everybody for being here, and please keep an eye and ear and look out for what we have coming up in the next, I'd say, between 2 and 4 weeks on the hang. It will be definitely just as fun, and I couldn't go out with a better hang friend and trumpet player with Danny.
Thanks,
Sal's right. Everything you play from low to high to from low to high to low is killing. But like I said, the humility is very important, and you have it, man. You have a great family, and I'm happy to be your friend.
Thank you,
So
buddy.
thanks for coming, man. I appreciate the insight.
Thank you. I value you very much, man. You're one of my heroes too, man. You know.
Likewise,
Never
man.
changes, bro. You know.
Likewise, even though I have my Easter shirt on, you know. But it's been a fun night, and you know, hopefully people enjoyed it and learned something. I know I did. I learned something every time I do these hangs with my friends. And so I posed the last question to you, and I appreciate your time and everybody else hanging here. My last question is to you: is what are you looking forward to in the future, my friend?
Man, that's a good question. You mean musically or just in general?
Could be about what you're going to have after this hang, whether it be a drink or a hamburger or tomorrow's gig or what you're doing over the weekend with your family, or how you can do 0 to 60 in your Tesla tomorrow. It could be anything. Don't even have to think about it. I just like ending with
I'm looking forward to, honestly, I'm just looking forward to going in. I got the night off. I'm going to hang with my kids and my wife and have a good time. We'll probably go out by the pool and have something to eat and chill. And
there it is.
I'm super thankful, man. And I'm thankful for this. Honestly, this was such a blessing for me, man. Thank you for including me in this. Appreciate
Very
it.
grateful for you to be here. And I couldn't ask for a better send off of a 65th episode. And I hope you enjoy the family as much as we enjoyed having you.
Thanks,
and thank you for everybody for making us together again. Thank you.
Beautiful. Take care, man. Bye, Steve. Thank you.